1945 here, and we're going to be playing some Hearts of Iron, Germany, yes, but different hook, different look than the last time. But yes, Germany some more here. I'm just checking, making sure we're live on all the interwebs out there. Are you on an interweb out there somewhere? Well, yeah. All right. Okay, looking good here. All right. Okay. We're starting fresh again. Last week we were invading Russia and things were going reasonably well, and America, for some reason, unbeknownst to me, declared war on me for some reason. Germany, don't know why, can't understand why America would declare war on Germany. I'm not being, if you didn't see it, I'm not being, facetious or sarcastic or anything like that. I hadn't done anything to America to warrant them declaring war on me. Hadn't allied with Japan. Hadn't allied with Italy. Italy had not attacked France or Britain. It attacked Greece, yeah. I hadn't invaded Denmark or Norway. Yeah, it invaded the Netherlands and Belgium, after France, of course. France and Britain declared war on just little old Germany, We were just trying to, regain our lost territories, particularly the Danzig corridor. And that's all we were doing. And, yeah, that necessitated, learn to speak English, gamer here, going to war with Poland. But, hey, and then, of course, we headed for the final boss of killing off communism here. And yes, somehow, for some reason, America ended up at war with me. And just sitting here thinking, and trust me, I realize what I'm going to say. A lot of people say, but I'm going to give you the how to fix it, or what to fix. Fix the damn game already, Paradox. I know you don't listen to me anymore, but still, fix the damn game. Oh, and America had like 100% war support. In their war with me, yeah. I don't know how you would justify America going to war with Germany, and I believe it was November 1941 or before. If you've ever studied history, Paradox, game development studios, people who develop Hearts of Iron, you will note Germany is the one. I mean, yes, you declare war back. Yes, obviously. Or you declare yourself in a state of war or whatever it is. But it was Germany who declares war on the United States. Oh, what about 2 days after or something? Sorry, I don't remember the exact date. Was it December 8th or December 9th or whatever? But they declare war on the United States. And so America goes, yes, because that was, for them, the final boss, really, and whatnot. So it got a clear, we didn't want this war. Japan attacked us, which they, of course, did. Germany, well, they, had already attacked America in 1941 when they sank the Reuben James, a Clemson-class destroyer. Now, that Clemson-class destroyer was escorting convoys on the western half of the Atlantic somewhere out here. I don't know exactly. I think it was sort of in this area, but I don't remember exactly. We didn't have a single ship operating east of these sea zones. West of these sea zones. So, we weren't doing anything to violate America's neutrality, to try to draw America into a war, to declare war on them. We hadn't, I guess we had to be able to go after the Soviet Union. We had done the Anti-Comintern Pact. Japan might have been part of that, but that was it. And that's just Anti-Comintern Pact. That's like, hey, if we go to war with the Soviet Union, you know, or they attack us or something, yeah, or they attack you, yeah, but that wasn't an anti-Chinese pact. So, fix your national focuses or something. And yes, I can see an American national focus that works to declare war on Germany because they see Germany as the bad guys and they wanted to fight the bad guys. But you're not going to get 100% war support in doing that. Is Germany being the one that's starting the war with, America's being the one that starts the war with Germany. So fix the damn game. Just do it, Paradox. It's not that hard to deal with national focuses. Just the mere fact that Japan, and I don't know exactly who in that playthrough, did Japan declare war on Britain and America at the same time? Okay. So we're both at war, you know, Japan and the Germany are both at war with Britain, but that doesn't mean America would jump in. Yeah. Okay. Since this is gripe session, hello, Jemnuska. Yes, it is morning here, but good morning, afternoon, evening to everybody watching, wherever you may be. I really, really don't like in your Paradox games. And we're going to be taking a look at, because although it's been out for a while, I just got it because I didn't need it for my last playthrough. The latest DLC, which here. To create the new HQs, you need command power. Okay, fair enough. You need command power to create HQs. Haven't even really gotten yet to, because this is, like I say, I got it last night. And we don't have any command power. And starting the game up last night, just to fiddle with it a little bit, didn't have any command power. Yeah, I guess I could have cheated it in or something, but why is all of this zeroed out? Why is political power at 2 here or whatever? Why? Now, I know there's new people running, the Hearts of Iron continued development. That's fine. I'm sure they're evil people because everybody says I'm sure they're good people. No, I'm sure they're evil. Yeah, whatever. Doesn't matter. But why don't you give us some political power to start with? This was originally explained in a way here, and also this, was to stop sort of min-maxing, constantly swapping out like, oh, we're going to use this political advisors for 30 days to get this effect, and then we're going to switch over to get this other effect, and in and out and in, Yeah, okay, great, cool. Because you look at it, and if you were firing and hiring, ministers all the time in government, it's chaos in your governmental level at that level, and it's going to cause disruption. So if you do it once in a while, great. There's no real problem with it. Because you have political power, you swap it out. I'm good with that. And hello, Mr. Supreme 50. Good afternoon to you as well. So, I'm good with the idea of political power. I'm even good with the idea of command power and building up some of this experience. Now, I don't know, and I haven't gone back and looked at this. I Are we getting more command power than we did last time, or is this going to be hard to create HQs? You know, in the last game, I thought they were already doing too much with command power and experience, you know, without giving us enough. So I get the idea here that if you're constantly hiring and firing generals or establishing HQs and disestablishing them, I get that as in command power or staff organization power, however you want to call it. Command power is a cool enough term. I get that's a bunch of work. So why not start us off with some? Maybe not enough to do everything, but some. Especially if I wanted to organize my army right now. And yeah, hey, in theory, and we're going to be doing this here, so we might as well remilitarize the Rhineland or rally the Wehrmacht, but we're going to remilitarize the Rhineland. So we're going to do this. So let's just do this now. It's going to take 35 days. Okay. Germany had already, I don't know if any before 1933, because it's January 1933, Hitler becomes Chancellor of Germany. Remember, whenever we're talking about, and I'm going to continue to lecture on the Third Reich, that's why a lot of people show up. There are much better streamers and videos out there if you just want to see somebody playing Hearts of Iron 4. If that's what you're looking for, I'm sorry, I'm not the streamer for you. But hey, if you want to give me a shot here, talking about history while playing, we will get to playing. We already picked out a national focus, so we're playing this. So when you're understanding National Socialist Germany and World War II, what becomes known as the Axis are the primary drivers of World War II. Other nations are driving as well outside of the Axis. Like I just said earlier, France and Britain declare war on Germany over Poland. So it's not purely everybody waiting to be attacked. It's not purely a reaction. The Soviet Union, to allow Poland to be attacked by Germany, they're coming into an alliance, and it is an alliance. It's a shaky one. It's one of convenience. It's not a deep alliance. It's sort of a, like I say, shaky, sort of like a, whatever. Obviously, I think either side, and there's good evidence that the Soviets were. And I've been asked this recently, and I'll say it again. Was Russia planning to attack Germany? As in, were they going to attack Germany? Germany just forestalls them. I will say my analysis is Russia was making plans for war with Germany, one in which they initiated, but the decision hadn't been made. Okay? And they weren't, I think it was more of a getting ready for a 42 as opposed to a 41 start date. But no one's even gotten into all of the archives of the Soviet Union yet. And the ones that had been gotten into have been shut down largely to Western researchers. So there's still a lot of stuff we don't know. And of course, a lot of stuff, could have changed. Meaning Stalin could have said, oh, well, we're going to be attacking in September or something, and put out memos to that effect, secret ones to just a few people. And then that could have changed. So the mere fact, even if we have documentation says that they were going to do it, doesn't mean it would have happened. But my estimation is the Soviet Union is getting ready not just for a defensive possibility, but getting ready for an offensive possibility of a war with Germany. And I look at it from what little I've read a few books here, but I'm not a big Stalin, researcher. From what I know about Stalin, Stalin is an opportunist. He is not an ideologue. He is an opportunist. Meaning when he thinks revolutionary China is going to be the main power, that is Chiang Kai-shek, and that the communists in the mountains are going to fail, he sends lots of military aid. He recognizes Chiang Kai-shek's government. He sends aircraft with Soviet pilots to fight the Japanese. And he's all in on supporting nationalist revolutionary, because it is like the revolutionary China. I think it's the National Revolutionary Army of China or something like that, the NRA, or however you would parse out the initials. Not the American National Rifle Association or the American National Recovery Act, which was going on like now, 1936. There's at least 3 NRAs, two of them in America that I know of that are, at least one is still a significant thing. The other one's an FDR thing that goes away with World War II. But, China, nationalist China and Stalinist Russia are also in a bit of an alliance, which basically disappears in any practical sense once Germany attacks. So it's all efforts to defend, the Soviet Union and not to support. Well, thank you. Let me see. I see your effort to support. I want to see, is that a
the H2 Pro?
Is that that pizza, or is that a Dorito chip? Looks like a Dorito chip to me. I like Doritos. Yeah, Doritos chip hovered over it. Yes, cool. I like Doritos. Yes, cool. I actually like the original plain Doritos the best. But I do like Doritos. So thank you, Mr. Supreme, for the Dorito. Where was I? Oh, yes. So, Stalin is an opportunist, whether it's China, then, oh shit, we're actually in a war with Germany. We've got to, leave all of our equipment, pull out of the people that were there, and send no more equipment to nationalist China, because we got, other priorities, right? So, which is perfectly makes sense. So I really estimate Stalin would have attacked when he thought the time was right. I don't know what that means. It isn't, what if his calculations? If he calculates that, oh shit, Germany is arming up. If we let them arm up any bit more, they're going to become too powerful. So we better go now. It's now is better than later. And that might have happened in 41, but I don't quite think so. But he might have thought better now than later. That would have been a reason. Or if for some reason, obviously, we could see with Italy already having troubles and having to send Germany, or Germany comes in and having trouble with Yugoslavia and comes in and occupies Yugoslavia. It's a brief war. And then battles down into Greece. So already bailing out Italy and Greece. And then later, after that, following up by sending Rommel to North Africa. If that all started to go pretty poorly, that might be a reason to have a second front, jump into it. Obviously, if America were to ever just show up in World War II, hint, hint, they did, that might be the time to attack then, because if America is, helping defeat in, North Africa and, the islands or whatever in Italy, and maybe threatening or actually, you know, do a counter invasion here or even up in Norway or something. Because the Norway invasion could be much simpler. I mean, it would be sort of like, you know, invading Sicily kind of thing. They could have put strain on it had, you know, the Soviet Union not already been invaded. The Soviets, I could readily see attacking under those things. So that whole alliance is shaky at best. It isn't a Dorito nacho cheese. Those are okay, I guess. Not my fave. So yeah. So they're, you know, looking at this war. There's a lot of things that can happen. So we're going to, okay, so as I was starting to go down until I get sidetracked, I sidetracked myself. Leading up to this time period already, Germany has already broken elements of the Versailles Treaty. You got to realize that there's the armistice that gets signed in the Compiègne forest on the famous railway car. The Germans, that the French save because, hey, it's a historical railway car now that's where they signed. The Germans haul it out of the museum or wherever it was being stored, move it to basically the same location. I don't know if exact location, but out there. And make the French sign their second armistice in 1940, and then the Germans blow the railway car up so that it can't be used against them if they lose in the future. You know, but not the 1918 armistice, but what was it? 1919, 1920. Sorry, I forget. It's later. The actual Versailles Treaty. They've already broken parts of it unilaterally, not like an agreed upon thing. So, and those were pretty damn minor. Some of the stuff that they've already broken. This is the big one short of actually declaring war on France. In my opinion, the biggest break in that, because we can look at, say, they were forbidden to have tanks. You know, they've broken that part of the and you got to remember, Germany agrees to not have tanks. Yeah, it's with a gun at their face. Well, of course, they've lost the war. You know, but they agreed not to have tanks. So they've already in 1936. So you know, look here. Already producing tanks. So, yeah, but the big one is Rhineland. Well, okay, am I going to have enough command power? Am I going to be able to organize my army up? And this is the flaw in all of this, without having command power, is what if I was playing a multiplayer game? And when I do the remilitarized Rhineland, France goes, nope, and decides to fight. Don't I get to have HQs at the start? You know, that is what I'm objecting to. Here, let's put stubborn, yes, okay, old guard, stubborn defender, infantry officer. There we go. We're going to come up here and get there. And hello. Jaronivki? Is that or is it Yaronivki? Don't know if it's a soft or hard J. Hello, good to have you here. We're just getting started with this playthrough. Okay, and since we've now got a command set up here, let's send you up to here in preparations to occupy the Rhineland. Let's add these to the command. These guys aren't going to go to the Rhineland, but now I'm pretty sure the AI is not going to declare war on me. Just from playing it a lot, I think I'm on relatively safe ground there. But like I say, it could be a situation where the war might start. Okay, Walter von Klug. Okay, brilliant strategist. I'm even considering at this moment, of playing this next one with the HQs, trying to let the AI play instead of doing everything micro. That would be a different. Okay. Okay, you will go to the west command. You guys probably will. Are they west or the east? Do we have, who's a good mountain commander yet? We don't have Dietl. I think Dietl was Austrian, so I think he shows up later. Okay, well, I guess our mountain commander or mountain corps of one division will be leaderless for the moment. Okay, we want to come here and start this. Research done, and we'll come over here and do some artillery, and we'll have Rheinmetall, towed artillery. Ah, Mr. Supreme has been playing Hoi 3 as late. BI's B15, outstanding time. Well, very good. I have not looked. I forget what the last, probably about 5 iterations ago, last time I've looked at Black Ice. Mostly I liked what they were doing. I didn't like that they were reducing the number of brigades and divisions. That was the thing I did not like. But like I say, mostly it was pretty damn good. Now, after my last playthrough, we definitely need more artillery and more support equipment in production early on to get everything going. Now that does mean less other things like aircraft and whatnot. We'll need to manage various elements to keep the get our rubber from. Not going to get any tungsten just yet. We'll operate at a 1 deficiency. Dutch East Indies. Now that I've got done sort of bitching about Paradox and starting this game, last game, again, if you're watching this or new here, I played very much trying to focus on the Soviet Union war and only fought the war in France as needed. This time, I'm going to do the sort of normal thing, attack Poland, take out France, and then I'm going to help Italy secure the Mediterranean. I think, I may change my idea in the last moment. I think we're going to try to not establish Vichy because I want to put some German divisions down in occupying North Africa. and see. And so this one, I'm hoping to make it go further into the war. Hoping hope to get through all of the Mediterranean secured in 41 before going for right now. We'll just do total of 4 divisions training. Before, so 42 going into before going into the Soviet Union. Okay, Wilhelmshaven. We'll do Eric Rieder here. Missing equipment production. We'll get to some of that. Outdated equipment and production decisions available. Yeah. Hello, folk. I see you've changed your name again. Okay, the challenge, or maybe just you're on Twitch, not sure. The challenge in the Mediterranean theater is to get past LL, the main bottleneck, where the Axis has very low supply, but the British have plenty. Yes. Yes, I understand that if we are looking at it that way. I am not going to wait for the 41 time period and have the... I know it's not called it, but in a way it is the second phony war. Yeah, there was obviously the Battle of Britain, both the early phase when they're still like contemplating, and of course at some level people, of course we're going to invade Britain. Well, I don't think it was ever going to be easy enough for them to invade Britain. I don't think, and I don't plan on, that will be one thing that we will have to look at getting paratroopers. Plan on invading Britain. Whether it is practical to do so, I'm going to not do so as part of this pseudo-historical test, because yes, they get the BEF, the great bulk of the BEF out of the continent. Most of it out of Dunkirk. There are 2 or 3 divisions, I think, that get trapped too deep in France that surrender to the Germans, and as a whole division. Obviously, the Germans are taking other prisoners, throughout the campaign. But there are several other, division size, not the whole big army of at Dunkirk. I think they got some troops out at Cherbourg or something, and maybe a few other evacuations of British units, division size, and maybe a corps or something, I don't know. But and other divisions or other units, British units coming out, they get out. So yes, they get the BEF out, but basically through 1940, the BEF is not it's not a mob of men, but it's not a fighting force. I suspect even less than half of them get out with their rifles, let alone things like Vickers machine guns, Boys anti-tank rifles, or anything motorized. Maybe the Cherbourg or whatever it was back here, they pulled the division out. That they may have actually pulled all their motorized equipment out of or something. But okay, that's one division. That isn't the BEF, which is, for those of you who don't know, the British Expeditionary Force. So, yeah, it's in Britain. Yeah, let's for the moment presume they could have found enough rifles for all the guys somewhere. There's still not really any really prepared to fight serious campaigns in 1940. Other units exist, of course, outside of the BEF. They're whatever equipment they do get out, and of course they're already building, there's already equipment in production, because they didn't think the war was going to last just 30 days or 6 months and it was going to be over. They thought it was going to be World War I all over again, so they were already putting equipment in production. And of course a lot of the ground equipment gets sent down to Egypt and other units. So yeah, but I don't think Germany's coming across the channel, or it's going to be very costly, very costly. And talk to Pyrrhus, when he was congratulated at whatever the battle was down here on his victory, and he says, with another victory like that, I'm defeated, or words to that effect. Yeah. A Pyrrhic victory as they now. So if Germany does defeat England, like I was talking earlier, will that leave Germany so weak that the Soviet Union will just, I'm not saying it'll just roll in without opposition to Berlin, but will it be a desperate holding action? I do mean desperate one. I'm not saying Berlin's going to fall by any means, but is this going to be the Russo-Soviet war? Well, let's just go in Poland, not the Russo-Soviet war, Stalingrad, the Caucasus. So, where is the war going to take place? And also got to remember, Romania is not in the war until the Soviet Union happens, that invasion. They're sitting there as neutrals. So if Germany looks, victorious in Britain, but if they have an idea that how much casualties there are, Romania isn't going to be interested in jumping into the war, and Stalin really doesn't need another front to fight on. So they'll, don't know what would for sure happen with Hungary at that time in conditions. So yeah. So we are not going to. Oh, and of course there was the Battle of the Atlantic going on later in 1940 as well. But in many ways, it's a phony war. You're sort of letting, Italy, you go down and fight them in the desert. Go get Cairo, sure. It really isn't until the spring, summer of 41 do Germany really start paying attention to all of this down here. And it's a combination of Italy not doing well and Yugoslavia having a revolution or a coup or whatever you want to call it against the king, who is just weeks before signed on to the Axis. Not declared war on anybody, but just sort of, we're sort of in it with you. And a lot of the local people did not want that to happen. So we're gonna force the issue and come down on Yugoslavia and Greece very rapidly in 1940. So I'm looking at this sort of push here, come across Cyprus, maybe into, because if we're not forming Vichy France, this might be free French territory, pushing in here and pushing down from here, as well as pushing through here, folks. So it won't just be the bottleneck here. At least that's my plans. I don't know how hard it will be to invade successfully Gibraltar. I hope we'll be able to take out Malta. hope to get Gibraltar. That's more of a hope than for sure. But I want to secure, I don't know that we're going to, secure Ethiopia. I mean, not that we're not going to push south, but that isn't on the goal. Oh, and the goal is if for 42 war with the Soviet Union, I'm going to see about opening the war with a southern front as well as an eastern front. And I want to see how that goes in this game with the very real considerations of this. And where's the railroad going between here and there? That kind of thing. Can I build one? What can I do? How well will this work? So that is sort of, again, the plans of this. All right. A little bit faster because we're not micromanaging the army right now.
Bereit zum Ausrücken. Ausrücken.
Get a few people to the borders.
Ausrücken.
Order to watch out on those perfidious Poles and Czechs.
Angetreten. Zuhören.
Greece is an interesting nation in World War II. We can clearly see the Axis, both Germany and Italy, very willing to just declare war on nations that clearly would like to be neutral in the war, whether they have a popular, the people, preference to one side or the other, or a governmental preference to one side or the other. They're just willing to declare war on them for sure. But having said that, and obviously we can look at, Greece being an example for Italy, Norway being a good, and, Denmark being a very good example for Germany, that just strategic position. But when Germany can get local cooperation, unless it is within their direct war goals, say Poland is a clear example of this. Poland was going to be erased. There was going to be no Poland after when all was completed. So Poland is not a nation that they're looking at negotiating some sort of an agreement and status. But like I just said, they got Yugoslavia into the Axis, and that pissed off a bunch of Yugoslavs, so they did the coup. So Germany had no, or Hitler, I should say, had no territorial plans in Yugoslavia. Italy, on the other hand, does, but Italy ain't that powerful. Let's speed this up a little faster. Ain't that powerful to just go in everywhere, wherever they feel like it. The one nation that and I don't know what kind of research anybody has done for the people of Greece, but the government, and I'm forgetting exactly who, I don't know if it's Metaxas, maybe Metaxas. He wants to join the Axis. But basically my understanding is Mussolini says no. Because Mussolini wants Greece. So Germany's like, well, like they were with Bulgaria and Yugoslavia. Yeah, sure. Hey, guys, want to join? Cool. Come on. Romania's like, hey, you need to join because Ploetsi, the oil. That's sort of like the non-negotiable thing there. But so Greece, I don't know, don't know what now looking back or whatever, because obviously Germany and Italy both invade. It's going to very much skew as anti-German, but yeah, I don't know what the popular sentiment would have been. Okay, Rhineland remilitarized. So we invade the Rhineland.
Bereit. Ausrücken.
Go up and watch the border. Okay, so we've invaded the Rhineland. We can do him. Elmar Schacht. Got enough political power to do that. And I'm going to try not to rant too much about that. Warrior plan is much later, more like June, August, something 36. We're definitely not ready for that. Reorganizing that. Remove Konstantin von Roth. Remove Walter von Bloomberg. Warner Rich and Oswald Woods. Obviously, we need to do this eventually to get these guys in, but that isn't there yet today, so I think warrior plan. The Sultanate of Asa, wherever that is down here, submits to Mussolini. Okay. And we can't send Pete. And how much do I rant about something? Why the fuck can't I send an attaché? Serious fucking hell. How much lifting is these command power supposed to do? I can't. Well, let's click here. I can't. Well, I guess I can do this now. Okay. Click to deploy an Army HQ template to open up. Right click to open up HQ. Okay. Battalions. Light armor security. Or, well, I don't have enough power to do this. Any of you guys watching this over here? Do this again. Looks through binoculars, looks around, takes his pistol out. Gets his clipboard out. Oh, draws his pistol again. Oh, we're getting the clipboard out again. Put his pen in his pockets, sort of, but hides the clipboard somewhere. Oh, draws his pistol again. Guess there's enemies near? Or is he just going to shoot a random soldier of his own? Oh, he's cleaning his boots with his pistol out. Oh, goody. That's just how you clean your boots, with your pistol waving around. Oh, he's going to do it again. Now, I was going to ask, how much did it take? Yeah, how much did it cost to create this thing? But probably they had AI do it. Probably wondering why. Oh, yeah, okay. Why the hell did I have a pistol in my hand? Oh, okay. Gotta check that off. Check clean boots. Put pistol away. Yeah, check. Do I need to look around and see if the enemy's nearby again? Do we think this is an AI generated thing? Oh, yep. Saw the pistol there. Let's take a look at. Oh, we're gonna see if there's anybody nearby me. What do you guys say? AI or human created? I don't know. Hello, Elizabeth. I was disappointed to see that motorized HQs are just generic truck models instead of Kubelwagens for Germany or Willys Jeep for the US. I don't care about 3D models, but the lack of flavor, why even add them? Well, why add them? Well, we're talking to the map itself, having the HQs on the map. Now, I've not played with the HQs, but I did watch the Paradox videos about, or the video about the HQ. You know, talking about it and showing it on the map and talking about some of its features. Either they created it, in my opinion, and it could be both reasons. Either they didn't know what else to do. You know, what else, you know, we want to squeeze a little more money out of Hearts of Iron 4. What could we do to squeeze them out? Because country packs, you know, nobody bought except for a few people in Latin America, and they don't have much money down there anyways. So probably the, you know, localized currency versions down there is probably hell of a lot cheaper. Nobody but people in Latin America probably really bought that pack. I know I didn't. Unless it happened to be with some feature thing like this that I got last night. So it's either squeezing some more money out of the game, or they realized that there's actually benefit of having the HQs on the battlefield, on the front line. Oh, he's now stretching his legs, bending his knees and with his hands behind that. I like the HQ features. I mean more so the 3D models. I've never understood 3D models to begin with because they don't put any effort into them. Oh yeah, checking his boots while holding the gun. This has got to be some sort of AI thing. At least that's my impression. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I don't know if you were around when this game was in beta. There was a guy, and I'm blanking on his name. I don't know his real intention, but he started to make a mod for Hoi 4. One that was going to add in 3D models for countries like Czechoslovakia, Romania, the Netherlands and whatnot. These guys, and this was in the days before they even had this little, the pseudo counter below it. But these guys, he was making models. This is obviously way back before AI could do any of this stuff. He started making models, and he announced this was going to be a mod. They were damn good. You know what happened to the mod? Never got released. And these models, like I say, they were damn good. All ready to be turned into this. The stuff that he was, showing images from was just them standing there, but you could easily, do the wire figure and have them do the push-ups or whatever. Easily. Paradox buys him out. So I don't know if that was always his intention, but they were so good. And these were ready, or nearly ready, if not 100% ready, before the game was released. But he had made a bunch of these things. I don't know if they're still on the forum, if they got scrubbed or whatnot. But he made these 3D models to, and this may be even one of them right here for Czechoslovakia, or a version thereof, based off of his work. But it took a long time before they ever ended up in the game. And I believe some of them that ended up in the game come in later as part of the DLCs. So they've had a lot of this flavor stuff without necessarily coming in and doing the, the various national focus trees and putting in some, some of these nations, some creative, not that it takes a lot of effort, but some creative, graphics design for it. Some modders have done fantastic work. I'm reading Elizabeth's here. And Paradox has gotten them to do a lot of the recent flavor packs, so it fits. Yeah. Well, this is way back before. Even, Oh, and I proposed my Third Reich events for the game, and the answer at that time was not yet. Not a no, not a yes, but a not yet. They were interested. Life moved on, and so it never came about. by the time they got around to Germany, the Götterdämmerung, I was well checked out from trying to work with them at all. I do think even working within their vision, a mix of theirs and mine, I could have made the Götterdämmerung significantly better than it was, or is, or whatever. Don't know that it would have sold any more copies, but it would have just been better. A lot more flavor than anything that they've ever put in for this, at least in some aspects of it. So yeah, and I've talked, I don't know, Elizabeth has watched a lot of it, but I don't know the recent with Lum, and we've several times talked about gaming and whatnot, and how games in the 90s were better in many, I mean, there's some great games now, I know, but so many of the games back then were better. That just graphics weren't this good. Graphics often are better looking than the game itself, meaning the graphics are very good, the game ain't that good. So yeah, they seem to think having these 3D terrains make people want to play the game more. As opposed to just 2D, but you can readily tell that it's mountains and areas are plains and whatnot. So to me, this looks try hard and fail. Meaning they're trying hard, but they're failing. It's sort of like, we're going to try to do photorealistic, but it just looks as opposed to, hey, we're going to do a cool art style, like doing something, if this was all, I'm going to use the word, not necessarily exactly anime style, but if you're going to do sort of, 2D animations and whatever, and make it all look nice with that, and have a nice flavor of that, where they're trying to make something that's sort of photorealistic, sort of the camera, the lights, and the cloth moving with the light and shadows, but just not really working. It just looks corny without any real benefit. So I would agree there. So back to this. No. Oh, did I? Oh, I'm deploying. Okay, I didn't mean to do that.
Angetreten.
Okay, so they put in time for this. Does this help anybody? And what I find this to be really weird is, why is he wearing that hat? Seriously, why is he wearing that hat? No hat, no hat. Not those hat. No hat, no hat. Not that hat. You're going to find like Dietel here or somebody with it. Because he's clearly, and again, I want to come over here. So I got one HQ that I didn't. Okay. Because those are general's collars and general stripes on his breeches. Okay, so we can only do armored under armored. We can't do, I guess, a motorized infantry unit. We'll have HQ staff. It'll have forward air controller. And I'll have reconnaissance staff. We could do naval liaison. I guess that would help if we're doing an amphibious unit. Engineer staff. Special operations coordination. Okay. I've not got there yet, obviously. Like I said, I watched the video last night on these things. And supposedly, you can set, and we'll see once we get this thing created, how far back the HQ is supposed to be. Supposedly, the closer to the front, the bonuses of having this general here will be stronger than if he's like, way back over here. Okay, cool, good. That I approve of. What these should be we can talk about HQ staff. I don't know how forward air controllers. I guess if you don't have any forward air controllers, if you don't have those units, but either here or here, during World War II, Germany, okay, let me be very specific. The Heers, the army, if I'm mispronouncing it, that's what I mean, the Heers, the army. The German Heers, the Deutsches Heers, had lots of cavalry units in it during World War II. And I'm talking about not just something called a cavalry unit, but an actual guys riding horses unit. I'm not talking about in the service of the Heers or in the service of the Wehrmacht, meaning all those Cossack horse units that you've probably seen photos of, and guys wearing pseudo-German uniforms, maybe actual, proper German uniforms, sometimes just sort of German uniforms, whatever that they're wearing. Sometimes very stylish. Those guys, like those Russians or other peoples, they are sort of not in the German army. They're sort of in the service of the German army. Okay, you sort of understand the definition. The German army itself during World War II, and unfortunately, I probably wouldn't have gotten it off my shelf, but I have a book on German cavalry, or I forget whether it's exactly Axis cavalry or German cavalry in World War II. Nice hardbound, fairly thick, half-inch thick book. A lot of good information in it. One sort of surprising thing that you might not realize in the book, there was one and one only German cavalry division in World War II. This unit. Or something akin to this. Now, it was a full division, not just cavalry commando in whatever. and it had artillery in it. You know, it was a full cavalry. It was a full division. It was a cavalry division. That was it. There was one. All the rest of the divisions were foreigners in German service or other cavalry regiments. Some infantry divisions had cavalry units as part of them. More is my understanding, and I'd have to look it up. These guys here had cavalry regiments attached to them, fighting cavalry regiments. Also, again, to my knowledge, and there's probably some exceptions and whatever. Yes, cool. Gem News got a little horsey. Cool. Generally speaking, there were no artillery bigger than 150 millimeter artillery in divisions. All of the larger artillery, the 170 millimeter and larger, were all, Abteilung, their own sort of detachments. And most of those were core assets. Okay? So it was sort of like we have here, very much like we have, let's click over to this division here. 4 divisions, nice little core here. I know this is more of with 24, it's more of an army, not a corps. This with their, yeah, I know they can earn traits. Come on, guys, just do this right. I like that you gave generals here. Let's just have a pool of generals that I could go in and pick for divisional generals. Like you did in Hearts of Iron 3. You can just auto-assign here. And if I want to go in and click, and people used to talk about how bad it was, you need the micromanager. No, just auto-assign them, and all you got to do is have a very simplistic matching of traits. Like, does it have an infantry division trait? Well, then you're going to put him in there. If he's going to be a motorized or panzer division trait, you're more likely to put him there. If they're mountain division command, really simple, and then you could switch if you wanted to get in, not just promote these to add more here, but if you wanted to get in and micromanage it, great. You don't want to touch it, great. It'll do a reasonable job without you touching it, fine. That's all you need to do, and that would be great. That would solve the divisional commanders, that properly bring them back, since you've now done on the map. And then, of course, I don't know how moddable this whole feature is to mod in cores and then still have this level. Have this level, I'm absolutely fine keeping this off the map. The army group level, because it doesn't, whether his HQ is here or freaking over here or top, commanding, it doesn't really matter, that just how close it is to the front line. Army, it matters somewhat. Core, absolutely it matters. But so the idea of having support units would be most excellent, and not just staff. So let me catch up with Elizabeth here. Some mountain tiles are hard to tell with the 3D terrain. Same for marshes, which have huge debuffs. Yes. Kind of information you'd like to see at a glance in a war game. Yes. See that shield with a one. That's it. The battle plan thingy. Okay. Not sure exactly where you're talking about. See this. Talking here. Okay, well, I don't know. We'll see. And there is no cavalry army HQs for some reason, but there's ground infantry HQs. It's a weird decision to omit. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a solid reason for it. the reason to have
Ihre Befehle?
to have these two. Okay. I don't think you need a cavalry one. I think they're right here. Armored, if you want an armored battalion. So you need to have tanks. So it's going to get tanks. And we'll look at it and see what they're at least supposed to have when we get this other one deployed here. I guess it has deployed, so let me look over here. Okay, oh, it's just 90% done. Where is it deployed? Not enough equipment to deploy. Okay. Light tanks. Okay, it's supposed to do light tanks, so it needs more light tanks. Well, we're producing some. That's sort of kind of why I really didn't want to do this, but I accidentally clicked on it. No, I think they're right in this, because well, no, I think they're right. I'm going back to I think they're right. Yeah, well, okay. Here's my thoughts. One, I think it should have started out as an infantry battalion, but that's... If these are only for... If these don't help at the front line, I'm saying if, and I still don't know enough about this, and correct me if you think I'm wrong. Oh, where you make the battle plan. Okay. Oh, you mean down here. Okay, I'll take a look at that in a moment. If these are not assets that are being lent out to component divisions of this corps or army or however you're organizing this up, if these are not lent out assets, but only security assets, okay? Meaning protecting the HQ from an enemy attack. If that's all that they are, then I agree with the plan you don't need cavalry. Why? Well, okay. Here's why. This is armored. To have this means that you have to have tanks. And that means you're denying tanks to some other unit, okay? But it's protected. This HQ is protected by tanks. Good. Fine. This means it's protected by motorized battalions. Okay. This means it's protected by infantry battalions. Why not cavalry? When, of course, at corps, and maybe at army, but definitely at corps, they would have cavalry battalions or regiments, whatever you want to call them, squadrons, troops, whatever. Because what's the point of cavalry at this level? Because I am taking this to meaning that if you need to retreat because the enemy's coming to attack you, or you are trying to keep up to the front, keep mobile enough, you have trucks. This means you have tanks and trucks. This means you've got wagons, okay? And wagons move basically at infantry pace. They're not cavalry. so the idea that we're talking about an HQ here, not just the 50 or 100 guys in a, in a bunch of tents, in a few tents, or taking over a few buildings, or, some large building to battle manage. I'm also taking this to be a certain amount of your logistical support for your units. Logistical support, that's what it makes that. So if you're not going to give them like an artillery battalion, or like a heavy anti-tank battalion, or like the idea of being able to put a Stug unit into here. Now maybe there is an option later on or something to do Stugs that are going to support your front line, like being like a heavy artillery thing, then the unit itself is not going to all get on horses and, run away, or all follow along rapidly, the advance on horses. They're going to be doing it at wagon speed. This is going to be doing it at motorized speed. This is going to be motorized with tanks. So I don't think they're wrong in not having HQs, where you make the battle plans offensive lines above the generals. Okay, now I know what you're talking about. Area defense. Here. Okay. Okay, proximity. So, free control will not move automatically. You have full manual control. Cool. I love that. Because, I'm a manual player, but I just love the idea that I don't have to have the AI doing something. Love that. Whether you should do that or not, that's another matter. But I love that that's able to be done. Far, medium, close, on front line. The HQ will be assigned front line along with the rest of the army. The HQs close to their assigned front line improve fighting capabilities of units on the same order. Okay. Commander bonus effectiveness plus 6%. Ability effectiveness plus 6%. Okay, we're going to have to see, and maybe you already know, because I know people have been playing this. If I order it, if I do free control, will an HQ actually attack? Like if I tell it to attack Strasbourg, not just sit here and defend if it gets attacked. Can I attack with an HQ? Or is it purely a defensive unit? Or if I were to put it on the front line, would the AI attack with it? At this distance, max planning speed. Okay, planning speed. Down 5%, that's not too bad. The combat bonuses plus 4%, plus 5. Medium. Okay, medium plus 2%. 10% planning, okay. And far, planning speed way down. Effectiveness plus 1. And free control, which obviously is that. HQs can attack, but there is RNG that will capture your commander in an offensive. Okay, yes, I understood that the commander could be captured. You can set them to immobile and they will not. Okay, right next to it. They will not move unless you do it. You can get battle plan bonuses with this. Right. Okay. So we're going to see once the war really comes about. Why do they make me...
Angetreten.
Now, if I were to change this, is it only for this one, or would this change it for all?
Befehle.
Okay, can I?
Bereit zum Ausrücken. Bereit zum Ausrücken. Bereit zum Ausrücken. Bereit zum Ausrücken.
I think I just got rid of. Yes. I want to get rid of that because I don't want that. I wanted to get rid of that divisional, or that undeployed unit, which hopefully means, yes, I now have the supply of tanks. Okay, good. Okay, construct the Autobahn, probably not just yet. Civilian factories. Let's do this, civilian factories.
Bereit zum Ausrücken.
Okay, I need army experience, so
Angetreten.
train exercise.
Ihre Befehle.
You get a new commander here. Okay, we will do this and put commander here. And we will exercise this division.
Ihre Befehle.
These guys will exercise. Hopefully generate. Doesn't that generate some more experience? Yeah, exercise. There we go. We'll see if I play with battle plans or not. We'll see. I'm not sure. Probably won't do it for Spain once that comes to be an option. But
Bereit.
okay, autarky efforts. Price controls. Uses increasing consumer good factories by 5% each month. I think we let that go too high last time. So right now, what do we have here? Recovering economy. I think we will do price controls. The German economy is a very, very interesting thing. I'm talking about this German economy here. Okay, the federal state of Austria bans the DNSAP. They will not lose easy. How rude. Okay, political power bans Austria. Brexit installs source as right advisor cannot be yes. Okay, very good. We got the first that done, and now we want to do mechanical computing, which will help all the rest of the research once we get that done. Reichswerk has industry, MIO gives you plus on artillery and infantry equipment, hiring Goering as I need to do does blah 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 blah. Need to do that. I keep forgetting about as inner circle doubles that, but it locks you out of fixing the Luftwaffe debuffs. Yeah, I should have even before this. Political power gain. I'm going to read these here. That could be really good, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if somebody's done a... You can get both. You have to pick one of the... If you're... You can only get... let me say this correctly. You can only get one of these three, but you can get the other upper here If you wish to. Wish I knew what the Reich Labor Service. We'll probably do that again, I think. Yeah, so next time, I think we'll do tote. Do spear first. Well, first we got to do the Führer principle, of course. Yeah. Gives you huge construction buffs in areas you pick to build in. Okay, thank you. Yeah, maybe we will do that. Maybe go with tote, spear, and yes. Okay, we're getting some more divisions coming up onto the field here.
Angetreten. Bereit.
Need to upgrade equipment significantly quicker with Hess, so he's always good pick early on.
Achtung! Bereit! Ausrücken! Ausrücken! Ihre Befehle?
You'll get to train, but right now I want to
Ausrücken!
send you and have you watch the French.
Ausrücken!
Watch them riot. One tungsten, we're down. So we want that. Okay, gotta wait to 150, then we can get those people. I'll do Walter Funk. But oh, we have him is not hired as advisor. I think there'll be some other ones coming in. Do the Führer principle. Okay, interwar artillery. And this is for Rheinmetall. I think early on we'll do production efficiency up. Get that going. Man.
Angetreten.
What is my current stock? Oh, tanks. Okay, well, we have enough for tanks now. Okay, we have enough tanks, so we should be able to deploy this one. So I'm going to deploy this.
Bereit zum Ausrücken.
Okay, so we have Eric von Meinstein's AQ. Oh, cool. Now this I sort of like. That's sort of cool. You get to see his face there. I mean, just enough to recognize him, but that's cool. I'm going to move
Befehle.
him up to here.
Ausrücken.
We're going to turn him over to this for the moment. We're
Angetreten.
going to set that up
Ausrücken.
for his Panzer Division.
Befehle.
If I'm not mistaken, no, not history template. I think, no, we'll move him to.
Ausrücken.
I'm going to put you under him now.
Ausrücken.
Here. To Seton. We are getting ready to have some sort of Condor Legion ground forces. The lack of consistency of the uniform hats with the portraits is a nitpicky I struggle to get over. Oh. These are so bad. So bad. That portrait that they got there actually looks much better than a lot of, and I don't know if that's AI done or a new artist compared to a bunch of their originals. They don't care, Elizabeth. They just don't care. They get artists to do these things. You tell them that they're wrong. Basically, and I don't want to blame any one person. Because right now, my understanding, and it's been a few years since I've talked to anybody on the inside of development of Hearts of Iron 4. But one of my talk, and I won't go into it, nothing big. It never came about. But I was told, well, I'll see about doing that when I get some artist time. So that told me that this was a few years after Hearts of Iron 4 came out. Probably just 2 or 3 years ago. I'm not exactly sure on the time. But It was something regarding the USA and another possible cabinet political figure, whatever, to put into the game and whatnot. And they sort of interested in it. Nothing that, not even hardly worth crediting me over, but they needed to get artist time, and this is before you could have AI just crank these things out, to create a portrait for them. So they didn't even have, even though there was work on DLCs, they didn't even have a dedicated artist any longer working for Hearts of Iron 4. So they got artist time at it. So like, I don't know, a day, a week, 10 hours, I don't know exactly what that meant, that they would get, and like a 2D artist specifically we were talking about, not a 3D one. I presume they're different. So that the people, as part of the core members of it, it's sort of like, if they wanted to add a new song and they needed to go get somebody to make the actual song, whether you go hire an orchestra and play it, or you get somebody, digital music created, and digital could sound like a violin, meaning you're just sampling stuff and creating a song, whether on a computer or actually recording something. Somebody playing an instrument or whatever, but just, getting a musical artist to create a new, song or something for a DLC, that's a Latin American song, to play in the background or something like that. So obviously some assets aren't always with a production team, and that makes perfect sense. But I sort of was a little surprised that it was in the realm of getting artist time as opposed to, oh, hey, I need this stuff done, put it into the, somebody's to-do list with an idea, we're going to be releasing the DLC in 4 months. So sometime between now and 4 months, I need this, portrait asset created or something like that. And it would just be done as, when the person gets to it. And as you're getting nearer to the time, you can, tap them on the shoulder or whatever, or however, within the system. I don't mean literally, I mean figuratively. Say, hey, this is coming up. I really, need this. If you're not crunch time on something else, please get this stuff done. But I talked to them even before the game was released at how wrong all of these are. But they didn't want to hear that most officers cap, general officers cap attachments are not gold, and definitely the Luftwaffes are, I think, basically never gold. Sometime, and it's inconsistency, and I don't know quite if there are rules, or if it's just within an acceptable, because you're going to for generals, you'd be going to a tailor and having these hats made for you. You can get issued officers' hats and throw generals' badges on them for sure. That's definitely a thing. Definitely a thing. But you also had these hats tailor-made to you. And so, yeah, most all of this gold on Kesselring should go. Though they do sort of have the powder blue uniform right. If I'm not mistaken, unless it's been corrected, if memory serves, Rommel has an open-collared green jacket, which is a never happened. Rommel, the reason he's pictured at times with an open-collared jacket is because he's wearing his tan Africa Corps jacket, and his Knight's Cross and his Blue Max are just done to the shirt collar, because you don't get to open these collars up, period. Yeah, when you're relaxing you can, yeah. But with these, trinkets around their necks, there isn't really an option, a loose collar option with this. So But they sort of, didn't care about that with Rommel, that was being done wrong. So there's so much wrong with those things. It may be worthwhile to talk to devs in Black Ice mod to make the portrait changes. Well, I don't know. I've criticized, if we're talking Hearts of Iron 4 Black Ice, I have some rant videos tearing them apart. So I don't know if they want to hear from me. I don't know if they even remember or if they're even aware of it. But I gave them a very hard time. I don't know. I did not like all their buffs and debuffs to things, and I rage quit their mod. It was one of the things that got me to stop playing Hoi 4. And if you may notice, I'm not playing any modded versions right now. Partially because I'm just looking at the base version with all these new features, learning that. Partially it is to give people like Black Ice time to incorporate these features. I really, really wonder if you can get in under the hood and create one more level of command. Somewhere between army group, somewhere between army and division. Actually create a core command level. That would be very special for me if somebody could create it. And you also need to create it and create the AI so that other nations use it, so it doesn't, overly buff just the player nation or something. I don't mean just Germany, but meaning the buff the allies and whatnot, that they would take advantage of it. Because I'm presuming, though I don't know, does anybody know, does the enemy do AI nations use deployed HQs, or is that just for the human? Research. Yeah, I think I want to go here. I want to come here, here. Okay, we're going to be doing these through 36 through 37 real soon. Yeah. Okay, so what I want to do here is one that'll do industrial research speed. That's plus 15. Right. Resource efficiency gain, lack of resource penalty. That's good for once the war is going on and you don't have that. Construction, infrastructure, railway, okay. Rice work, conglomerate. Well, Krupp looks good because that has even better than IG Farb. Okay, that makes a bit of sense. Siemens is electronics. IG Farben is chemical. Krupp, I guess, yes, an industrial concern. That resource, but it doesn't give me. Oh, it's the same 5. Okay, well that gives me 15%. So we're gonna do Krupp right now. Krupp. Let's see what Elizabeth. Black Ice lost me during the Spanish Civil War when it threw a random timed mission at me with no notice prior that required equipment I didn't start with. And yeah, AI uses HQs. Okay, good to know. Yeah, that's some of the I stands for Iron Cross Edition, to give you some history. So it was sort of the Iron Cross Edition mod. And then that team sort of falls apart, and then that's when someone comes up with Black Ice and continues on it. I got to know them well after Black Ice started, but with at least some of the core original people. Or Hearts of Iron 3, if I need to be specific on that. So I go back that far. Their vision wasn't a lot of things like random time missions and stuff like that, or a lot of special buffs that I was having super stupid inability to attack in certain terrains, and it was just adding depth to the game, adding some flavor, definitely doing that kind of stuff, but it wasn't doing. And I you know, there was also the Total War mod, and my memories have blended enough between those two mods that I can't necessarily separate them out all these years later from playing them. Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do for modded games at some point, but I'm giving them time to at least. I'm not worrying about feature mods, at least at this point. Probably there'll only be one more this year of a significant features, but I want to see what they do creatively with the HQs on the fields and some of the other stuff. And then I may or may not look at that. Capturing their good generals is pretty impactful if done right, especially the Eastern Front. I'm sure that it could be done. Well, what is it? Vasily Zaisov, or however you pronounce the guy with the big thick glasses. He was supposedly a pretty good general for the Soviets and gets captured and then turns his coat. After all of the purges that Stalin went on, I can't blame too much even a Soviet general turning his coat and fighting for the Germans. Now maybe it also, go, oh, but look at how wicked the Germans are being, and yeah, they were being very wicked. But how wicked were the we'll do Hess first. How wicked was Stalin being, with the Holodomor and all those other things that he was doing. So, and I'm sure they didn't tell him, oh, we're planning on exterminating all Russians. And I don't know that that was ever really the plan. Definitely there was hunger plans to starve out large populations, for sure. But, and definitely getting rid of the Poles. I want to keep emphasizing that because that was a major feature. Not a bug, that was a feature. Getting rid of the Poles. I'm going to save this. Don't worry, we're not quitting yet. I just want to talk a little bit. Okay. I am planning a video to actually release a video coming soon in the near few weeks. I'm just writing the outline right now. This is sort of what my sort of brief topic here is, sort of tangential to it, sort of alongside. And I've been watching videos, really good. oh, there's this Indian guy, but I say that and he has a very strong American accent. I don't know where he was born. He's definitely not a recent immigrant to America in this. I mean, maybe he was born in India, but he speaks very much with an American accent. Dalwesh or something. Very good channel that he has. He interviews people. He's done a series of interviews with a Soviet expert who's also studied China. Her name is Sarah Payne. She teaches at the Naval War College, which is not Annapolis. The Naval War College is for, I don't know if senior is the right term, but it's not for cadets. It's for, mid-level officers and above. And I've been fascinated by her stuff. But she also touches on, and is, you can tell from her stuff, is very anti-Trump. But I don't know what her actual politics are. She normally doesn't say. But she very much praises like George Bush Sr. and what he and Helmut Kohl did in reunification of Germany. Got that done with basically, of course, Gorbachev's objections and over Margaret Thatcher's objections, particularly, and also whatever Mitterrand or whoever the French, but got that done very quickly because those nations did not want to see a unified Germany even at that point. And she very much talks about the rules-based order and some of the other people talking about how it's going away and how Trump is killing it. Trump is not killing the rules-based order. And I've identified, I haven't heard anybody else identify this, and I know those that watch may already remember, I've identified when the rules-based order ended. It ended when Putin takes Crimea and the West, NATO, whatever you want to call it, does nothing significant about it. And notice I said significant. Oh, they freeze some assets, ban a few people from coming into Western Europe, the oligarchs. Oh, and Sarah Payne also very much talks about, she's a very, very much, and she's identified, and I agree with her, a determination between two types of powers out there. One is continental powers, and the others are maritime powers. And maritime powers particularly like rules-based orders. And she's not wrong about that. And she talked, Taiwan has come up in some of the interview and presentations that she's talked about and whatnot. The point for something like a maritime powers and China with Taiwan, the point isn't necessarily that you go to war over Taiwan. The point is, if China attacks and takes Taiwan, we're presuming that they succeed in this scenario, the point isn't to go to war with China. The point is to isolate China at that point. But you actually, here's now me, you actually have to do it. Meaning she looks at, there's interest, she talks about, and compound interest. And so if you have if international trade grows your economy by 2% per year, And that's compounding every year, to the base level, compounding, growing. So it's not just 2% more per year. It grows by 2%. So it goes, the economy is, let's say, is 80. No, let's just do 100. It's 100. And it grows by 2%. Now it's 102. But the next time it won't be 2%. It'll be 2.0 for whatever. I'm not a math person, sorry. But it'll be compounding and growing. So over 20, 30, 50 years, international trade, say, will grow you much bigger. Look at what Clinton did with China. China was a backwards nation. Now they are set to be, not that they are, but they're set to be the second biggest power out there. They might be the second biggest power if you don't look at the EU or the European NATO, however you want to describe that, as a unified body. I would definitely, I would say China's economy and power is larger than Russia's right now. So the point wouldn't be to go to war with Russia over Crimea or over the Ukraine. But the point is to stop all trade between the rules-based order nations and Russia. Stop all trade. To my knowledge, anybody can correct me now or in the comments later, I do read the other ones. Europe is still buying large amount, and not just Hungary or a couple of sort of people that, I don't know that they're really pro-Russian or pro-Russian versus Ukraine. It's just more like, yeah, we don't have the power to defend Ukraine. The realization, our armies are not big, even if we take nuclear off the board, we're not powerful enough to go to war with Russia, and we don't have production power of enough to provide them with enough tanks and airplanes. Right now, I know, at least I understand, I don't know. I understand that Ukraine is making more drones than they're using. They're actually ahead of the curve there. Which good for them. I have at least one Ukrainian friend. Haven't talked to him in a little while, but as in the last couple of months, but maybe 4 months. I don't know. Been a while, but I've talked to him. I know him quite well. And I've talked to a few other Ukrainians that are living in Ukraine, not just people floating around that are Ukrainian ancestry or people who bugged out, but people still there. Good for them. I fully support Ukraine in this. I totally agree with all of the economic sanctions that America has done against Russia. I am fully on board with all of that. That doesn't mean I'm fully on board to an endless money and resource pouring into Ukraine either. So I'm fully on board with the idea of isolating Russia over this. Fully on board with that. And I'm glad we've given them a bunch of economic, military, and non-military support. Very glad we have. I'm on board that we've done that. I just don't know how much more I want to give. I know Trump's pulled a lot, all, I don't know, back from that. But I'm definitely on board with giving them some more aid. But the reality of the situation, Europe isn't as powerful as it thinks it is. And Europe is still buying energy at large scale from Russia. And Europe cannot supply its own energy needs. It's decided it doesn't want to. it would rather freeze in winter than supply its own energy needs. So it destroyed its nuclear power plant. Germany has, not France. France has more nukes, better nukes, power plants. But Germany got rid of those and, shut down everything else, and wind and solar and natural gas from Russia or America or wherever. And so her point is that if Russia invades Ukraine, which obviously it has, or if China invades Taiwan, that doesn't necessarily mean that the maritime powers, which is sort of Europe, definitely Britain or Britain in the past, I mean, it's still a minor power in that it still has two carriers that it sometimes can get one or both to sea. The U.S. obviously is a maritime power. It is the maritime power out there. It doesn't mean, now I'm not saying we shouldn't fight China over Taiwan, but even if we go, okay, we're not going to, but actually go, if you invade Taiwan, we're stopping all trade with you, China. We will send you 0 resources, and we will buy 0 things from you, period. We're just going to do that. And we're not going to allow, and obviously somebody's going to smuggle something, but we're not going to allow it scale to like, oh, well, we'll make it in China and, I don't know, send it to Vietnam and put a made in Vietnam label on it and send it to America from there. No, we'll just make sure that there is no at scale trade with you, China. Is it worth it, China? So that is an important element with maritime or powers generally. Continental powers have to have standing armies. Okay, they have to have armies. Even Switzerland has a standing army as well as its sort of massed reserves. Because if you don't, they can come across the border and just keep coming, guys. If they don't, what are you going? Are you Germany going to rely upon Paris launching some nuclear missiles as they come across the Polish border? The Russians or whoever. If you don't have a standing army, are you just going to rely upon push the button Max and mushroom clouds blow up somewhere, even if it's just targeting their attacking army, their spear points of their invasion? You've got to have a standing army. And this is sort of getting to my point. International law is meaningless, people. It is completely meaningless. The problem, like I said, with the rules-based international order ending is, and it is ending because the only nation out there both capable and willing to enforce it is, you guessed it, the United States. But the United States cannot 24/7 keep the Straits of Hormuz open. Okay? It cannot also 24/7 keep the Bab el-Mandab open. It cannot 24/7 patrol the, South China Sea for violations against the Philippines, which are going on probably as I'm speaking right now. It cannot. You can see here, from AIS, the shipping thing, you can see there's probably right now, right in Chile's EEZ, or right off of Chile's EEZ, there's probably a bunch of Chinese fishing boats down here that Chile does not have the naval power to drive away. And they turn their AIS off, go into, for sure, because it's been documented that they do it, go into Chile's EEZ, fish, go back out, dump their cargo onto larger ships. And these fishing boats are, ones that come from China. These aren't the, 2 or 3 person, maybe got some lobster catch, lobster baskets, or, even a biggish sort of net that they, do behind the, a fishing boat. We're talking large trans-Pacific, biggest ocean out there, fishing boats or small fishing ships, but they have larger fishing ships that will come get their stuff off. So as much as they can drag into their ship, they'll do that, and then they'll come turn their AIS back on, load it on board the ship, and so they're just raping the Chilean waters. The U.S. can't be there to protect Chile. Chile is not capable. It doesn't have enough Navy, and also it's probably not willing to shoot a Chinese vessel, sink one. And if it can catch one, yeah, they'll probably, a Chilean life or a Chilean Coast Guard type boat. Oh, we've caught you. You're here in our waters. You're under arrest. We'll tow you in. Okay. So they tow in one boat and 100 more are out there. And China is funding this. So the owner of the boat will just be compensated by China. The U.S. cannot do all of this. The U.S. is incapable of being everywhere. We can be any one place, and we can sink anything that floats, and probably blow up massive amounts of installations if we so choose to, and whether that's bridges, dams, power plants, or missile launch sites, or air bases, or army bases. Oh, America, yeah. I mean, obviously, we've sunk the Iranian Navy, anything but small boats. Everything's on the bottom of the harbor or bottom of the sea out there. And it's cost Iran a lot. It's with what's going on. It's still, it's trying to do its deal with Oman right now to say it controls here and whatever. Yeah, I mean, so the U.S. cannot do everything. So if every other nation, whether it's Japan starting post-World War I, though they're changing their plans a bit now, or whether it's Europe post-Cold War, to downscale the military, that means the U.S., because it is just one power, yes, the greatest out there, and I don't mean USA cheer it, I mean just practically the greatest power out there, cannot control everywhere. If Albania wants to start charging tolls coming through whatever straits at the bottom, whatever this is called, I know, the Adriatic, but, whatever, they wanted to start doing that, and Italy's unwilling to deal with it, well, the U.S. can't come in and keep this open. The U.S. can't be everywhere. So anybody who's looking for the rules-based order / international law is misguided, whether that's a person on the street or heads of and leaders within the governments. Nations exist only because they are able to hold the territory. Okay? And you have to understand this before, and okay, I'm not gonna out the person. Some of the stuff I was commenting, he said that's some sort of Nazi shit or something, words to that effect, when I was talking about the U.S. and Canada and whatnot, of just taking Canada. But you have to understand, nature abhors a vacuum. Okay? And if you cannot hold the territory that you have, you don't deserve it, people. Whatever nation, whatever country you want to talk about, if they can't hold it, they don't deserve it. If Chile cannot hold its EEZ, because either A, they're just incapable, or B, they've prioritized something else. Whether that means government hospitals to take care of people, whether it means feeding the poor. Chile used to have capital ships because it was in an arms race with Argentina and Brazil, basically, and a bit of with Peru. It would have heavy cruisers and cruisers in the 19th century. It can come up with the money to have ships that could go out and sink these. And dare China, all knowing that if China really were to come to the Americas, there's that old Monroe Doctrine that the U.S. will become involved. The U.S. might not enforce Chile's EEZ, but the U.S. won't allow too much Chinese influence, including Chinese battle fleets coming across the Pacific. That would be something that somehow something would be done by it. It very well might just be Chinese ships start sinking mysteriously out at sea somewhere, because we still have submarines that are basically undetectable. Just sort of an aside here, on Twitter within the last 24 hours, someone posted the photograph from whatever, German submarine, of the USS Enterprise, taken in like the 1990s through the periscope. It was during a naval exercise that the Germans were able to get a submarine within periscope, clear picture, easily to put a torpedo at that carrier. They got a submarine in close enough, and and it wasn't just carrier, because like there's some photos of a U.S. carrier within the last year or so, transiting the English Channel here. It wasn't just some peacetime. It was an exercise, meaning they were trying to hunt, they knew that there was opposition force submarines out there, and proof of evidence that they got that close was, a photograph through the periscope of the carrier that easily within torpedo range, and, would have torpedoed. Whether that does that mean sunk? Probably, if they could have enough torpedoes into the carrier. So yeah, Germans have good subs. But I think we would take out their expeditionary fleet. And we might just go, oh, hey, look, the Chileans must have some sort of secret anti-ship missile that they fired. How interesting. But whatever, it would be done. So whether, and I will go back to this, whether it's Greenland and Denmark unable to or unwilling to defend it, and it just doesn't mean the land, it means its territorial waters and its EEZ and undersea cables that may be running through here. If they're unable or unwilling to defend it and turning that defense over to America, then why does it belong to Denmark? Because obviously Greenland cannot defend itself. It does not have the budget. Probably it doesn't have a budget to buy and man even one submarine. So the idea of eventual independence for a nation like Greenland or for Iceland is ridiculous. And if Canada is going to continue down its trajectory that it's currently going, why does it deserve to exist? And so it is not immoral or wrong to go and say, oh, Canada has declared electricity evil and illegal, and we're going to go back to nature. No coal, no solar, no wind, just no electricity. You want to go to the grocery store, you walk. You want to You want to get food, you farm it. We're going back to nature. We're going into the pre-industrial age. I'm sorry. The Amish or whoever in America, because they're part of America, can do some of that stuff. But if you do that, if you're unwilling to handle your own business, if Canada collapses because we put on too much trade barriers, including maybe no trade at all, then it doesn't deserve to be a nation. It is not immoral or wrong to take the territory over. I'm sorry. It just this post-World War II, post-Cold War, Francis Fukuyama's The End of History, that all nations are sovereign and equal, and they all get to have it's immoral to come in and take land away from them. No, people, it isn't. Because if you're mismanaging it, now look, if you're Liechtenstein, which is somewhere around here, I don't know exactly, is it on the Czech border or I think it's the Hungarian border, but it's somewhere in here. Liechtenstein. No, it's over here. What am I doing? Wrong country. It's over here, off of. I was thinking I was looking at Switzerland, but no, this is Switzerland. It's off the Austrian or whatever border, Liechtenstein. It doesn't have an army, but it provides other nations something useful, banking and other stuff, financial services and other things. So it exists not because it has a bunch of diehards in there that have surface-to-air missiles and anti-tank missiles, and every Liechtensteinian person in there is willing to die for its country, and they're going to go on a jihad against anybody who's going to take them. No, it may be, we don't even hardly need a police force. Oh, we got, Fritz and Hans and other Fritz over there who will show up if there's a domestic dispute or if a tourist gets out of hand or whatever. And Hans over there who gets drunk every Saturday night and becomes belligerent, we'll come in put him in jail for the evening. Yeah, because it has found a niche that it functions, that means it has a reason to exist. And since it doesn't hold strategic territory, it doesn't hold, strategic minerals or something that it has to defend, it's going to exist because it provides a service to nations, and at least its sort of nearby neighbors don't have a reason that it needs the territory. So it's not mismanaging anything. That's fine. This is why Manifest Destiny and the U.S. taking all this territory, as well as Canada taking this territory and Mexico taking this territory, is all moral. It isn't immoral. It is moral. Because the peoples that were here, well, these people down here, 8 people. The Mayans, 8 people. The Aztecs, 8 people. They thought them yummy. These people were evil. I do mean evil. And so, and even if these people up here weren't evil, I'm not saying they were or they weren't. I don't have enough knowledge to judge. I don't particularly think they were evil, but they weren't strong enough to hold it. So there's nothing immoral about taking all of this. Now, what about the people? And this comes off of me saying that they wanted to erase the Poles. Well, we wanted to civilize the people because we didn't want people roaming around America raiding other people for their animals, or we want some slaves, so we'll go raid take some slaves. Or, oh, we want some women. We want to take some women. Or maybe we want some children because a few of our died last year, and we'll just take them and raise them as our own. We'll kill the parents. Oh, and any child sort of old enough to sort of remember. We want maybe, weaned children, meaning they're eating solid food, but very young, and they'll get to grow up as our children. And, we didn't really want that going on. We wanted to civilize them. And yeah, there's the Trail of Tears and other things that aren't so good. That particularly is a bad, because those were semi-civilized Indians at least that were sent off to Oklahoma. They still own about half the state. Not that makes it all right, but they haven't. It hasn't been so terrible. Oh, the trail, that part was terrible, but beyond that, it wasn't so terrible. So yeah, and of course in the past things are different than now. So I don't judge the past by today's standards. And today's standards to me equals, the 1930s and the 1940s. Modern, post-Enlightenment standards. So wars of conquest, in and of themselves, the mere fact of it doesn't make it wrong. Israel was not wrong to conquer its territory. It is not immoral for Israel to take that territory. Israel gets to exist so long as it can exist. Part of its strategy, even though sometimes it gets in Trump's way and sometimes Trump gets in its way right now, but is to be an ally of America. It realizes that, and no, I don't think the Jews control America or Israel's controlling America. I don't think that that's a real thing at all. Oh yeah, the last big starting of the last round of fighting very much was Israel going, hey, they're all getting together in this big meeting. I know we're planning on going in like 6 weeks or whenever the third carrier was going to show up. But if we go now, we can take them all out at this big meeting. See, here's all this evidence that they're all going to be in this big place. And they were, and they took them out. So that was definitely, but that wasn't Israel controlling America or controlling American policy. It was presenting a tactical opportunity and convincing both Trump as well as the military establishment that this was a good, because I'm sure had the military establishment told Trump, it ain't going to work, Mr. President, here's why, he would have followed that advice. But so long as he has trust, because he lost trust in Milley, and we found out that Milley, you shouldn't have trusted him. But I think he has current trust in Pete Hegseth and the other, Joint Chiefs of Staff enough that if they're giving him advice, he's trusting the advice. So there's nothing immoral with it. There is no moral right to, quote unquote, Palestinians to that part of the land. It just doesn't exist in reality. So, and even in moral framework. That doesn't mean, yes, humans can just be very bad to each other. And I get the idea that there's like, hey, my great-great-granddad was killed by your great-great-granddad things. I get that. And I get in Yugoslavia's breakup case, it wasn't that far back. I get that Tito's government, more so than the Kingdom of Yugoslavia. I don't know if the Kingdom of Yugoslavia did this at all, but Tito's government was very much settling Serbs in non-Serbian areas to have local populations in other regions. I get that in the breakup of Yugoslavia that you go, look, Serb community that's been planted here last 30 years, this isn't your country. Leave. I get that it isn't pretty. What I don't get is all the death squads. That is the immoral thing, where they were going into those refugee camps and slaughtering people. I understand it at a certain level of like why they killed the Tsar, because they didn't want the Tsar to be a figurehead for future rebellions or causes to restore the imperial Russia. It's why they killed the Bourbon king Louis the 16th. The French Revolution is that he was they were foreign armies were marching in, as well as whites, but foreign armies were marching into France to liberate the king, to restore the king. Yeah, I get that. And so if you kill all the people, there's nobody that claimed that this was once theirs, even if for just 5 or 10 or 50 years. That is where you get immoral. Not going, okay, guys, yes, we were once part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire and or part of the Ottoman Empire, and peoples and communities look all kinds of crazy quilt. I'm sorry, we're forming Croatia. It's going to be Croatia. We're determining who is Croatian and who isn't. It's not nice. It's not pleasant. But non-Croatians, you gotta leave. That, to me, in and of itself, is not immoral. I know some people will, and I get to, hello, Knight Sergeant Huntman. I'll get to all the stuff here. Yeah, Swiss border. I'll get to the chats. Don't worry. I pay attention to all the chats. I'll get to it. So yeah, because Yugoslavia was an empire. It was never a nation. In that it was a country, but it was never a nation. It was never a unified national identity. And because of 3 elements, one element prior to nationalism, meaning this community that lived on this little part of land here that could speak Hindu, and this community over here could speak English, and it didn't matter because it was this community, that community. It was pre-nationalism. But it was also, and communities got mixed up, Middle Ages, blah, blah, blah. But there was the Austro-Hungarian Empire and the Ottoman Empire that were pushing and resettling and people moving around and creating new places. That it wasn't, and if you look at all maps that are, well, even that maybe just drawing geography, but definitely any map beyond geography is propaganda. National borders are propaganda. Because you can look at maps produced for Guatemala, this part is included as part of Guatemala. So in Guatemalan schools, when they see a map on their wall, it includes Belize, not as a separate country. So all maps are propaganda. You may believe or agree with the propaganda or not, but all maps are propaganda to some level or another. Obviously, and sometimes propagandas may misput roads or bridges or whatever. Either they exist or they don't exist, or whatever. But all maps are propaganda. Keep that in mind. But if you look at a demographic maps, and I have some, and you can look them up, like pre-World War I, and looking at all of Europe, yeah, France looks pretty French. Yes, you'll see some Basque and some other stuff going on here. But you look at some of these parts of the world, it's little major, lily pads of different communities and all kinds of crazy stuff. No ideas of national borders. And yes, I understand the current European project of the EU wants to get rid of nationalism. People have not yet emotionally moved on beyond nationalism, but we're still there. And to have a nation state, those two words, nation and state, you have to have certain defined stuff. Yes, you can maybe have stuff like Belgium with Wallonians and Flemish people, and you can maybe have Scotland with Scots and Gaels, that kind of thing. Two different groups within a nation state that still see each other as part of the same nation, but different ethnic groups. These guys, traditionally, these guys spoke Scots. These guys spoke Gaelic. The languages have nothing to do with each other. It's not like Scots and English. They're very similar languages. Or German and Dutch are very similar languages. So, it is not immoral on those grounds. It's how you do it. It's how it's functioning. And so all nations need to keep this in mind. All nations. And we can go back, yes, maritime powers or any even continental powers, like Poland would be a continental power. It is not a maritime power. It does not have the ability to affect the world in a maritime sense. They can influence world events in other parts of the world through their economic and diplomatic actions. They could clearly state that if China declares or invades Taiwan, Poland will sell nothing and buy nothing from China. And mean it. When the League of Nations, and one of the reasons the League of Nations really failed was because it had to have unanimity. It had to be unanimous. We decided that wasn't going to be the case for the UN as the replacement organization. We're seeing majority rules, and when you give every nation equal say, Turkey has the equal say as to Albania. Each have a vote, which is ridiculous, have an equal vote. That so you can get a bunch of you create enough African states, well, they'll dominate the UN. Africa's huge, has a huge population. Split them all up, have 1,000 African states. Well, they get to tell the rest of the world what to do. Okay, right, because of majority rules. That's how silly, majority votes in the UN is. But when Italy invades Ethiopia, they put an embargo on Ethiopia, a League of Nations embargo, that embargoed everything except one thing. Oil. They would still sell oil to Italy. The one thing that Italy needed was oil. It didn't know that it was sitting on some of the world's largest supplies of oil. That would have been, oh, hey, just drill the right spot. It'll start, you got to cap it off so it doesn't waste off. Do a pipeline right to, in a simple pipeline to somewhere to put it on board ship. It'll just flow out of the ground for a while. You won't even have to pump it. It'll just, it'll just flow right into the tankers. Straight, no need to pump. No, they didn't know that they were sitting on all that. And it's not like you got to go to, some hard place to get it out of the ground. No, it's sort of right, near the coastline, near enough. Yeah, it's a bit hot, bit dry, but yeah, that's no real problem. Probably easier than some of the places to get oil. Definitely for world consumption, definitely easier than Baku. Baku's okayish for Russia, but it's there. But yeah, you can just put it right on ships and get it right up to Italy. So they don't embargo oil. And basically, within days or weeks or whatever, that the Ethiopian war was over, all the embargoes are lifted. Okay? All of them are lifted. That would be like saying, oh, now that Russia takes Ukraine, well, we'll buy all the energy and we'll sell you whatever you want. You need some missiles, Russia? You want replacement tanks? We'll just sell them to you now that you've won in Ukraine. No. So if you're going to try to use economic and diplomatic power, you have to mean it. And it's going to hurt. Because if it doesn't hurt, because, I don't know, let's just find some place. If Angola were to say, if you invade Ukraine, we're not going to buy any of your oil, Russia. We're not going to buy any of your products, Russia. And Russia goes, we haven't sold you any oil. You're an oil exporter. You haven't bought anything from us, in the last 50 years, Angola. What are you talking about? We don't care what you do. We don't interact with you in any meaningful way. The only time the economic power works is if it's going to hurt, using it, it's got to hurt you because you want to hurt the other person, so there has to be trade that you're cutting down. So, it is not wrong or immoral or illegal, because there is no international law. Especially there's no international law if you're not going to enforce it. And I don't mean just you can't arrest an American president or even a former American president. At worst you could do is say you don't get to come to my country and turn them away. Because obviously if, whether it's Bill Clinton or Trump, after he leaves office, if you can say you can't come in, fine. If Germany wants to ban Trump when he's no longer the president, fine, you could do that. I don't think it'll be smart for Germany to do that, but fine, you could do that. But if you try to imprison a former U.S. president, it ain't going to go well for you. Trust me, even if the next president hates Trump, because the president of the United States knows that he doesn't want that precedent to happen. Maybe a U.S. president gets imprisoned, but that's only going to be by the U.S. Okay, that isn't an option. So we're not going to allow that to happen. But even if you are, the president of Austria, yeah, I know they indicted and they got some not Yugoslav, but Serbian presidents and whatnot. But that was basically because of so much pressure. So you're not going to go around arresting presidents of any, or former ones, of any, but out there for them doing their stuff as people in office. It's just not going to happen. So international law is bullshit. Now there can be conventions. I'm putting that as different as like UNCLOS. Is sort of international agreements that so long as you're playing by the rules, other people will play by the rules, and we'll be fine. And that's good. That's for the best. But if you do that, you cannot be, and I will get to all the chat there, everybody. You can't be going and saying, oh, hey, yeah, this is EEZ zone, exclusive economic zone of the Philippines. We all internationally recognize it. Oh, China, yes, you signed on to UNCLOS, and as part of it, it had the map, and you signed on to agreement to the map, and then go start drilling for oil somewhere in the Philippines territory. Oh, but no. Either you've got to sink or destroy the vessels that are drilling it, or you have to shut them down internationally. Meaning, you don't have to start bombing them. You just got to go, no trade with China. Whoever you are. Whether that's Vietnam, because if they're drilling in Philippine waters, they'll drill in freaking Vietnam waters. Or, well, we're not going to worry about it pure like Bolivia, who doesn't have any coastline. Or if you're Uruguay. You have to go, I'm not buying anything from China anymore because I want to put the pressure on it. So if Argentina or Brazil or China were to show up in their EEZ, whether it's fishing, dumping waste, or trying to do offshore mining or drilling or something like that, you can't do it to them. And so, and again, and I will get to all of this stuff. The chats here. A lot of Latin America complains about U.S. intervention. I understand it. But part of it, not all of it, but part of it goes back to that Monroe Doctrine to say, we're not going to allow foreign or non-Americans, and I'm not talking U.S. Americans, I'm talking, the peoples from the America, come into our place, our area. If you were already here at the beginning, this is still France. Guadeloupe and a few other places are still French to this day. This is still France, though England's given up really, and even more so, even the crown, Canada. That's they can't come back there. You can't come back to Belize. You've given that up. But the territory that's still yours, you can keep. As long as you keep it, you can keep it. As long as you're not being, disruptive, you can keep your territory. Basically European. Other outside powers, fine. No new aggression here. We couldn't enforce it during the American Civil War when France and Britain, but mostly France, came in and installed Maximilian as Emperor of Mexico. We were just too busy with our own Civil War. Under the Obama, Trump won just because he was too distracted, though China was an issue with him. And Biden, they allowed China to come in and take here, China to set up ports in Peru and other places like that they're basically being kicked out right now, to the point that the Panamanian military went in and physically took over the ports. Oh, the same guys are still working there, but all the Chinese are gone, and they're under new management. Because the Philippines realized that, or not the Philippines, Panama realized, if I've been saying, sorry, Panama realized that if they didn't do this, they were going to have a visit by, the Americans. And so they went in and militarily did it. And again, if you don't know, I don't know if it's continuing, but a few months ago, somewhere between 5 and 10 cargo ships were being held in Chinese ports for inspection purposes for months and months and months, and then maybe let one go and then grab another one because of taking over the ports. China's having a hissy fit over it. But Panama knows there isn't going to be a Chinese invasion of Panama over this because America exists and America would stop it. So however much China might think it can do to Panama, America can do more. And Panama, of course, is special because it has the canal and it's a special case. But everywhere else is still part of the reason is that, oh, hey, America is friendly to the government in power in Peru. The out-of-power people might look for support from somebody else like maybe China. And so then, well, but these people are now railing against American influence. Well, American influence is not so much that, now when it's communism, that's a different matter, but not so much as it pro Group A or pro Group B in Peru. It's just pro Group who's in power. If you start using a non-American ally like China, like England, like whoever, that's going to be a problem for the U.S. So the U.S. will start to disrupt things. Just maybe the CIA doing stuff, that's not too noticeable. They still do that. I'm not saying like assassinate anybody. I'm saying like, massage election results or help things out. So that those kind of things still happen. And so a lot of it's that. So there's a lot of U.S. interference in the Americas. Absolutely. I, as an American, think it's more or less a net positive, but they may think it's not. But that's just a fact of life. And so now let me get up on the chat. Okay, here. Okay, Europe is a complete mess. Getting back to Elizabeth. It's honestly embarrassing. I'm not necessarily pro-Ukraine, but all the posturing they do with no action is pathetic. America gets no benefit out of helping Ukraine. I would disagree with the no benefit. We get a lot of help out of helping Ukraine. I don't know if Trump's mineral deal will ever last or ever be anything real. A very powerful Russia is not good for America. Okay? Just like a united EU is not good for America. If you noticed, Trump mostly ignores the EU. Trump mostly tries to, sometimes succeeds, sometimes not, does trade deals with individual nations. Whether that's Portugal or England or whoever. I know England's out of the EU now, but you know what I mean. He wants to do individual deals with each nation, not with the EU. It is also a benefit to the U.S. to use that maritime power I was talking about. We put on more serious than we ever had, not just under Trump, but more serious trade restrictions with Russia over Ukraine. We've also dumped a lot of resources into Ukraine. I believe that in doing that, we have forestalled more aggressive action, whether it would have been actual invasion or blockades or more aggressive actions against Taiwan. I think that, and even the war or the battles, because we've been at war with Iran since 1979. Okay, people, we have been at war with Iran because they've been at war with us. Whether we've acknowledged it or not, they've been at war since 1979. But the last round of things, China is not looking like, oh my God, Iran's winning. Well, Iran was already a pariah state for most of the West anyways. So more economic sanctions or whatever, but the U.S. can snap up any of its oil anytime they want to, that's leaving via ship. Okay, anything going north out, Caspian Sea or pipelines going to Russia, not that Russia needs its oil, Iran's oil. Yeah, it can trade to the north into Russia, but that's it. So it could, in essence, put oil onto some smaller tanker. The tanker could take it to the Black Sea or somewhere and dump it onto a bigger tanker, and that could be exported as Russian oil or something someday. But we can shut down Iran's international trade and do so permanently, people. The U.S., like I say, we can't be everywhere and we can't necessarily keep this open, but we can close this to Iranian trade. When we can keep it from hugging the coast, we can go into Iranian territory and grab up any vessel we want. And we can know, they can't reflag it or put a different name on it. Through satellites, we know any ship that calls at an Iranian port. We can stop it all. And just the actual stopping of one or two will stop all the rest. You don't have to like they won't keep sending them out to be taken. They'll eventually stop. China also realizes how much we've dominated the situation here, and realizes their anti-stealth radar does work, people. It really does. When the anti-stealth radar blows up, you know there's stealth planes nearby. It works. It gives the warning that, hey, there's stealth planes around here. Our radar just blew up. Okay, guys, run to the bunker. They're coming. Because that's all it can do. And they really thought, and from reports, I really believe it, they really thought the radars that they gave to Venezuela would be effective. They learned that it wasn't. So they learned a lot of their technology, a lot of their jets, a lot of their anti-aircraft, anti-missile type technology just doesn't work on America. And they've watched what we've done to Iran. They've watched what we've done to Russia over Ukraine. That if they were to go into Taiwan, it can be that bad for them or worse. So it does do some good for the U.S. No, if Trump's mineral deal goes through, we may get a bunch of mineral. But hey, I just saw a report. We found a bunch of lithium in the U.S. Well, that was a while ago. And just in the last week or two, we found supposedly the world's largest deposit of tungsten in the U.S. Not the largest in the U.S. Largest deposit existing ever we found in Nevada. Supposedly. I think it's a solid report. But it's a massive deposit, whether it's the largest. And enough to run all this stuff. So we've got enough for lithium batteries, and we've got enough tungsten. We don't need any imports. The U.S. So we're finding a bunch of that stuff in the U.S. And some of the rare earth minerals that China deals in, we already have plenty in America. It's just mostly the Obama and Biden administration made refining it impossible on one extreme to just being uneconomical because too many regulations and requirements and whatever. From literal banning to accessing it and processing it in some cases, and in some cases just overly restrictive, and you just get it somewhere else. So yeah, I think it was tungsten. Pretty sure it was tungsten, but whatever it was, they just found I could be wrong. So I'm wondering if it was a cobalt. I think it was tungsten, but whatever. They just found a new major deposit. So we might not need anything from Ukraine directly, the U.S. But there are strategic goods and reasons. And this is what, to any of my Ukrainian friends, listeners, whoever out there, I know no one pays attention to me. You've got to tell me, the American, why we need to support you. You are doing a terrible job of it. All you've been telling us is mean, evil, bad Russia attack. Help the good guy. Yeah, that's good for a few $1 billion. But after that, you've got to tell us why. I know why. I know, again, as you've heard, it's not a blank check. It's not an endless amount of support. It's not necessarily it's only going to be, another 25 missiles and we're out. And we can, keep sending you some, and if we don't like what Russia's doing, we might send you a few extra, or if you're not, agreeing to a treaty that we think you should, we may send you less, or stop for a while, things may shift and change. Because I don't, I understand Ukraine's doing very well right now. And hey, if they can retake all their territory, great. I fully support that. And if I'm actually seeing them retaking their territory, I would support effective, not just endless amounts of money that ends up in somebody's Swiss bank account or in their mattress or wherever, but actually effective support. You mean you can give them money on paper and then track where that money is being sent to, buying U.S. or buying NATO-based missiles, and so long as they're actually buying the missiles with the money, and again, not just disappearing into people's bank accounts. If we're actually, we're handling the money, making sure it's being spent effectively. I would actually sign up for significant more support if I actually see, real battlefield, real strategic, not just tactical gains, but real strategic gains. Yeah. But if it's just more endless grinding away, come on, guys, let's settle this. Let's get a settlement. Even if it's just a armistice, not like an agreement on that Ukraine agrees to the new border. We just agree to stop fighting and actually see stop fighting at a certain border. It can be a Korea thing. Because I don't know that the U.S. actually recognizes North Korea, because we're still in conflict with it. We have an armistice. We don't have a peace with North Korea, as far as I know. I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure we don't have any. I'm pretty damn sure we don't have any peace. I don't know if we technically de jure, legitimately accept that North Korea exists, or we just accept, or we de facto that they're there. You're real, but we only recognize Korea as a unified country. I don't know the actual status there. On that part, I do know we have a ceasefire that isn't a peace agreement. It's an armistice. The difference between the Compiègne armistice that stopped the fighting on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918. So November the 11th, 1918. That is one of the reasons why that date is important now culturally going forward. 11/11/11. That versus the later Versailles Treaty or the Saint-Germain Treaty. The Saint-Germain Treaty is the one that the U.S. signs with Germany. That comes a little bit after Versailles. The U.S., to my knowledge, is not a party to Versailles. It's a party to Saint-Germain, which is a different palace in the outskirts of Paris that the U.S. signed with Germany. So I think we're just at that, that Compiègne stage with North Korea. So, Russia and Ukraine could do that, which neither one of those would acknowledge the actual border. Russia doesn't have to acknowledge that Ukraine officially exists, and Ukraine doesn't have to acknowledge that Crimea and the Donbass is officially Russia. They could just armistice it out and have non-fighting. And they may still have, disagreements and arguments and people shouting across the border or sending nasty emails and not trading or whatever. But there can be, a non-kinetic war fighting situation there. Let's figure out this war. If you're actually going to win it, Ukraine, great. I would be, love to see that happen. And I would support more of my tax money going to that. But if it doesn't look like that's happening, and I've not been watching it closely. There is benefit to the U.S. for Ukraine, but I'm not making it very well. I'm making it somewhat well. The reasons why. Now, that isn't definitely not anything that America wants to go to war over. God, no. We have no that strong of interest on it. We have much more interest. I mean, Taiwan is sort of a specialized place. Taiwan might be willing to, declare its independence from China and just call itself the Republic of Taiwan. The U.S. is sort of kind of blocking that because of some of our agreements with Taiwan. China, of course, won't recognize that, but we might recognize that. I don't know. There's because that going after Taiwan is different than going after, say, the Philippines or Korea or Vietnam or something else. I am definitely wanting to think for a naval war, regional war with China over, Korea, Japan, Philippines, because, hey, let's see, where is it? Here, U.S. territory. Internationally, everybody recognized U.S. territory. It's ours. We're not that far away. And of course, we got Hawaii and Midway, and yeah. I not only because I grew up on the Pacific coast, very much so, but the Pacific is a strong, vital interest, and the Pacific is different than the continent. And Taiwan is in that gray zone of that there. Okay, so, yes, it has been most instrumental. Okay. I'm definitely super isolation when it comes to things, but preemptive measures like Greenland make total sense. If we don't take it, if we have an opponent, they will. Yes. Oh, and it's whether it's take it or cable cutting. Again, there was a very good woman was interviewed, I think, by the trigonometry people, if you know their channel on YouTube. And she's been an advisor to multiple presidents and whatnot. And she was actually being interviewed from Greenland for this thing that they were doing. She explained why Greenland was so important. Space is becoming more and more important. Putting satellites up in space is very important. A bunch of them are Elon Musk's Starlink, low orbit satellites. Other ones are data server satellites that need 24/7 sunlight because they're going to have solar panels and get all their power from the sun. And you don't want to put them. You want them in a stable place. You don't want them moving around. You want them in a stable place. And if you put them down at the equator, some of their time they're going to be hidden. They're far enough out that it's not quite half the day, but some of their time they'd be behind the planet. You put them at the North or the South Pole, and since America's in the northern hemisphere, you put them at the North Pole, and they will always have sunlight. They will be near to America, and they will have downlinks, and you want to have downlinks at the poles. Well, there's Small Barta up here. Is that it, my Norwegian friends? Or one of these islands up here. There's very northern Norway, and there's Denmark, and of course there's northernmost, which actually goes north or whatever here. So this is some of the most northern land on the planet. Definitely, that is not Russia, shall we say. Russia goes pretty far north too. I don't know. So there is strategic needs there. And the U.S. needs permanent access to that. Not something that, well, we have to pay Greenland, Denmark, money for being there, and if they don't like what we do because we invade Canada or we invade Cuba, well, we're going to throw you out. No, you don't get to stay here. No, we need sovereign-based territories that would give us access, meaning that Denmark, Greenland, whoever, recognize that this is sovereign-based territories for the U.S. We need that. Do we need all of Greenland? The problem is like you say, if we're not defending it, who is? And if there's an opponent like Russia, and well, Russia's done. No, Germany was done in 1918. In 1939, they start the war all over again, and almost win. So yeah, there's no reason to see that Russia won't be resurgent in 20 or 30 years. And there's no reason to think that China might go, oh, hey, yeah, we're going to sneak around the ocean here and find out where all your cables are and everything and be ready to come in and cut them as soon as the conflict, not necessarily like a war breaks out, but as soon as we're starting to throw on some economic whatever, they'll try to send in a submarine to cut the cables secretly in international waters, and Denmark and Europe and whoever doesn't have any defenses there. Oh, well, you should defend it, America. Yeah, okay, great. We'll defend it. It's ours. Simple as that. So, yeah. So the Liechtenstein's, Swiss border. Thank you. But the Swiss border and I think Austria or whatever, because it's on the border, like North Korea. Not sure what you were exactly referring to at the time. And hello, hi, 4456. I think the problem with the UN majority rule is that one country like China can influence a lot of other African nations and get a lot more votes for them. Yes, I understood the typo. Yeah, well, China does have a seat on the Security Council, but so does Britain and France, and they're irrelevant now. Russia's relevant. Russia's still a big power. China's a very big power. Not superpowers. I would definitely put China basically at a great power status, basically. But I don't think India's on the Security Council. It's getting pretty big. But Britain, what? They're a great power anymore? God, no. They're basically irrelevant. They think they still imagine that when the Prime Minister of Britain comes out and condemns something, anybody out in the world really cares. It's always nice to have people on your side, but do we care if England wants to go to war with us? Would we notice if England went to war with us? I don't know. Okay. And Elizabeth, the 1938 embargo on Mexico made them capitulate to Western demands almost immediately. If it hurts, it works. Yes, but for embargoes to work, it has to hurt both ways. Because now blockades are a different matter. But if you're not going to be hurt by an embargo, that means the other people won't be hurt by an embargo. The U.S. does have one other power that didn't work with Canada. They continue to trade with Cuba. But did work with other nations that sort of kind of can say, well, hey, if you trade with these people, we aren't trading with you. Pick your partner. Now, if it's some funky little nation like Cuba or some African nation, yeah, most people would rather trade with the U.S. than some funky African nation. But if the U.S. says, trade with the U.S. or trade with China, your choice, a bunch of nations will go China, because they don't trade enough with the U.S. It's going to hurt them either way. They would prefer to trade with both. But if they got to pick, a bunch of nations would pick China. So, yeah, like little nations, little places, and not necessarily little as in geography, but as economies. If their nation is small, economically, like Burma is, Myanmar is right now in like a 14. I shit you not. It's like in like a 14 to 20 way civil war right now. I recently got a map that had thought to be current control zones and all the different factions. Some of them are not necessarily factions that are at war with each other, but they're this group, tribal group, and this tribal group here who have no beef with each other, but they're their own little group, meaning, yeah, they might sign on to a big peace plan ultimately, but they're their own faction. They're not part of any greater faction. So they're not all factions hate each other, but some of the factions do have pseudo alliances, pseudo conflicts. It's more like, hey, you and I, we don't like each other, but that other group over there is more dangerous to us, so we're jointly fighting, or we're both fighting them and not fighting each other. Because there's sort of the central power and then there's the revolt power, but they're sort of Burmese or main group power that want to control all of Burma. And then there's a bunch of separatist groups that are somewhere between local control to the more extreme of wanting an independent nation. Somewhere in between, complete local autonomy to, or just regional autonomy to independence and gradients in there. And then where they're fighting for where their region would be. And there may be, this group may be also competing with this group. They both want their autonomy, but where the border between these two groups is going to be is still in a conflict. But even if it wasn't in the middle of that civil war, it's still a minor, and like another good example would be Bangladesh. It's a small economic power, so we could easily enforce with a lot of nations, maybe not all, but a lot of nations, either trade with us or you trade with Bengal. They'd probably pick the U.S. Some might pick just because they're too local to whatever and hardly trade with us. might pick Bengal, but so yeah. So it has to hurt. I think. Okay. Another problem. This is going back to hello, talking about my life. Good to have you here. I think another problem with the UN majority rule is one country like China. Oh, yeah, okay, I already read that one. But China is that Zelensky has the same popular support as Kamala to me. The only people supporting him are those exempt from service that want others to die for them for the armed job. I don't have a good analysis of that one way or another. I'm not saying you're wrong at all. I think Zelensky is probably the best person to be the face of Ukraine to the outside world. I don't know how well he's running his government. There was, I believe, a conflict that they fired and they rehired back a general or something like that because there was too much popular support after he got fired. I don't know how well he's running the war. Those are different things. Managing international, including America, which he bungled. He bungled. When Trump wants you to wear a suit, you wear the fucking suit. I don't care if it's your trademark to be in your sweater because you're a common man and you're in. I don't care if you do the Hitler thing. Hitler, after the war really got started, got rid of his brown because he was mostly, I think, or exclusively appearing in his brown party uniform or in non-official events wearing or diplomatic or whatever wearing suits. At one point, after the war starts, not day one, but at one point, he talks about putting on the field gray and wearing that only. And after that point, he's only seen in that sort of World War II outfit through the rest of the war, into his military outfit, as opposed to the brown party uniforms and the several variants to that. And remember, guys, when he was running for power, he wore a beige, rain trench coat and carried a whip. That was his thing. Then wearing some sort of suit jacket under that, but he was wearing a private eye trench coat and carried a whip. And I mean like a Indiana Jones type whip, not like a little riding crop whip. He carried that whip. That was his I'm getting power and carrying a whip around. Yes, so Hitler at different phases. Yes, I've studied him. But he throws away, or puts aside his party uniform, puts aside his civilian clothes, and wears his military uniform with his. He does have the party badge, but the only other two badges on it is his wound badge and his Iron Cross. Both of those he legitimately earned. Those aren't like some African dictator just putting medals all over himself. No, he earned those. He's still an evil guy, but he earned those things. That he earned. So yeah, I get the idea that Zelensky has his uniform for the thing, but when the diplomatic guys, the guys that set up the protocol and talk to him, Trump wants you to come in a suit. You fucking come in a suit. You just do that because Trump asks you. Because it's not like, say Trump says you got to come in a clown suit, an actual clown suit or something. But you still may think about it if you really want something from Trump. But he was asking for something reasonable. It's like sometimes they've basically told, and recently I think Fetterman went to the White House. He wore a suit. This is a guy who wears gym clothes to cast votes in the House. In the Senate, because he's a senator. Sorry. So he wears gym clothes, basically, his underwear, basically, to go cast votes in the Senate. But when he shows up to the White House, his people know you put him in a suit because you're not going there to piss Trump off. If you don't want to deal with Trump, you don't deal with Trump. You say I'm not feeling well, or I want to walk my dog, or whatever it is, and you don't go. but because he doesn't have, like, a senator or whatever, doesn't have a constitutional responsibility to go to the White House. Other government positions do when asked or told, but not a senator. They can decide not to come. So yeah, but Zelensky's probably the best person for that side of, dealing with the external parts of the Ukrainian cause. I don't know how well and also you got to remember too, the perfect should not be the enemy of the good. Before you say we need to get rid of Zelensky, or Zelensky doesn't have enough popular support, you've got to point to somebody else who should replace, okay? Because I don't care how bad Zelensky is, and he may be terrible on either a particular aspect or overall, you've got to go, oh, well, this other person would be better, because he may be terrible, but everybody else may be worse. So you have to always evaluate it within something that was reasonably possible, not some ideal person somewhere that may exist, but we don't know who he is. So you have to do that. So like when sometimes I evaluate who would make a good U.S. president. Well, in this evaluation has to come from a group of people that we could identify who would likely win presidency. So senators, governors, maybe somebody like an Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, could come out of business. It could be, and sometimes they come out of the House of Representatives, like Kamala Harris. Or was she a senator? I forget. I think she was a senator, whatever. But sometimes, you can look at, or like former secretaries, like a former Secretary of Defense or, whatever. So you have to look at sort of the pool of reasonably possible people to be president, and then who's the best out of that. Not who's, like, oh, hey, my professor that I had in college 5 years ago, and he's just wonderful. He'd make a great president. He might, but he's not in the running. So that kind of thing. So all of you who think I should be the president of the United States, you're probably right, but I'm really not one of the people they would consider. Sorry. Yeah, you don't get to have me as president. Okay. Let's continue here. Want to get through all this. African countries, China. Okay, here we are. Folk to Elizabeth, the Spanish Civil War mission, you got probably Juncker's airlift. Getting Juncker's is a historical AI focus in Black Ice. This is how the mod gives you notice. Okay, well, I don't know the details of that. X is going to happen soon. You need Y. Would have sufficed. Okay, yes. Why would I know the airlift was going to need equipment with the decision? Okay, we're just talking about that. Yes. My mod, and I keep going back to that, is still, again, not updated for the current versions of old Black Ice, Hearts of Iron 3 Black Ice. I like doing event chains. Chains of events that definitely are, sometimes things would happen to you. Like, I don't know, there was like a major storm that hit, up here and did a bunch of damage. So sometimes things just, happen. And maybe there's a choice to mitigate the disaster. And maybe, or maybe not, you have like airplanes to do, a rush relief mission to the damaged areas or something like this. And so that may not be an option for you because you don't have the aircraft. Because this is just something happens to you. But if you're like, planning something, going down the road, do you want to prepare for, do you want to do something? Now, like the, there's actually an English pilot and some other chartered airplane, maybe his or something, is actually the guy that flew Franco out of the Canary Islands to somewhere in Spain. But it was the Germans that supplied the airlift to get enough of the Spanish Moroccan army out of Spanish Morocco down here up to Spain to reinforce. Yeah, those planes basically already exist in 1937. And I don't know how many existed in January of 1937, at the beginning of the game, versus later, when it comes about, what is it? August, September, I forget. That should be something that should already be in production or happening if you're going to require that to happen. It shouldn't be a mystery that, oh shit, I got to start over the game and then redo this, or the Spanish Civil War doesn't happen because I want Franco in power, decided. So yeah, you got to design your mod right. It's not that you shouldn't be given a window to achieve it, but if it's something like that, either it needs to already be in inventory, especially if it was there historically, or there has to be something pointing you in the direction of getting that done. Okay, NSEG had those same kind of arbitrary mechanics that make it unfun. Yes, I understand that. Zelensky, put all his chips into the Biden family. Yes. And Hunter Biden corruption was shoot under the carpet. Campaigning for Trump's rival during the election was pretty short-sighted decision. Absolutely. That has... Trump does not forgive injuries. Okay? Does not forget. I'm not saying he doesn't forgive. I think he does. If he believes it's an honest, hey man, I'm really sorry. I shouldn't have, like in business, I shouldn't have opposed you or whatever. And he might be very willing to deal with you. Whether it's forgiveness or just accept that we have to continue to deal with each other. That's sort of what I think he's done with Trump. But he doesn't forget injuries, okay? And his support, including, I believe, I don't have all the facts, including, I believe, burying evidence that was pro-Trump, that supported Biden, and maybe manufacturing evidence that made Trump look bad and supported Biden. I think Trump has not forgotten that. Now, I don't know that Trump wants to... I don't think Trump likes Putin. But you got to understand, Trump... Glenn Beck, he's an American commentator. It's not important if you know who he is or not. He was a big anti-Trump person. And then at one stage, he puts on the Make America a Great hat and says, I'm a Trump man. And has come out and supported Trump. Now, he didn't do Trump an injury, okay? Meaning he just opposed Trump. There's a difference between doing an injury and not being on his team. Okay, there's a difference. And so he's come out in favor of Trump. And then at times he's criticized Trump. And I forget the exact words, but there was an exchange either in the White House or Mar-a-Lago in which, and you could find it, it's on YouTube, that's where I saw the clip, Glenn Beck recounting this. And I don't think he talks about exactly what what it was over because, again, some of the stuff is, not for publication. But yeah, I'm on with Trump on this or whatever. Yeah, whatever. And something said, yeah, but I might criticize him on some other points in the future. And Trump overhears this. He's like up on the stairs above him. And then you'll be a terrible person, whatever it was he said. Then to these people, including Glenn Beck. I'm going to call you what, you'll be a terrible person, or whatever he says. And they sort of laugh, because if you're with Trump today, you're his best friend. If you're against Trump tomorrow, you're an idiot. You're stupid. You're whatever. Okay? And then the day after it, you can be Trump. Trump will love you. Trump's great. Trump thinks you says something, you're great. The same person. Now, we're not talking about somebody who does him an injury, like Zelensky going after him. We're talking just like, agree with him today, you're a wonderful person. Disagree with him tomorrow, you're a terrible person. Agree with him the day after, you're a wonderful person. And this is when all these people that come out and criticize Trump, some just are doing it because they think they can score points. Some actually believe that Trump loves dictators. No. When Trump's trying to butter up Xi or Little Rocket Man in Korea or Putin, he's going to say, yeah, he's a smart guy. He's a good guy. We got to make a deal. And then when the deal falls through, Putin's the worst person on the planet. And then when reporters try to, but didn't you say Trump or Putin was a great guy? Because Trump isn't going to say, oh, I'm sorry, I was wrong, because he knows not to apologize. Well, he was, but now he's a terrible person. These idiot reporters are either just being partisan, trying to get you I gotcha questions, or they're idiots, or both, because they don't realize Trump will say Putin's a wonderful person tomorrow if Putin does something that Trump is in favor of. The day after, when Putin doesn't do something that Trump likes, Putin is the worst person on the planet. That's just the way Trump is. But that is sort of Trump's modus vivendi, modus of operations, how Trump works. But that is, again, different than doing him an injury. Because if you disagree with him, or like, oh, hey, we need all these votes for the big, beautiful bill, and you don't vote for him, okay, yeah. But then when you need your vote again, and you vote for him, he'll be, it's just the way it is. But when he sees you as betraying, so like when you come into his cabinet and then you come out with a tell-all book or something like that because you were in an area of his trust, he'll come out against you. If you notice, the woman who was his national security advisor, the Hawaiian woman, the former candidate to run for Democratic president. If anybody wants to chime in on her name, or if I remember in a moment, who's left. She hasn't come out and said anything bad about Trump. She hasn't done any tell-all stuff. And she was, a Democrat before, until she basically got kicked out of the Democratic Party. That doesn't make her a conservative. It just makes her reasonable. And so long, and now she hasn't come out and made basically any public statements, at least to my knowledge, that are any policy statements. But if she were to come out in, say, 3 months and go, I disagree with this thing, whatever this thing is, Trump will shrug it off. Maybe say, I almost had her name. Well, maybe say, she's being an idiot, or whatever the Trump would say. But if she starts coming out and saying things that were, what was going on in the White House and how bad Trump was handling this and that and this other thing, and starting to, do a tell-all book or a bunch of interviews that are slamming Trump from her time in the White House, that'd be doing him an injury. There's a difference between, because I am sure, and I again almost had her name there. So once I start to try to say her name, because I know it. I'm sure in their discussions, not everybody in their discussions agrees with Trump. I don't believe Trump just wants yes people. But once that decision is made, you need to shut up and support the decision and hope it goes well. Whether it's invading, Venezuela or bombing Iran, you may have gone, here's all the reasons I don't think you should do this, Mr. President. This isn't going to good. And these other people saying, oh, this is going to be great. We're going to kill the leaders and all this stuff. And okay, we're going to do it. And then, okay, you don't come back and go, I told you so if it doesn't work out right. You work to try to, well, how, from this point, how do we make it work best? And Trump will know that, oh, okay, this person had some very good points. Maybe we shouldn't have done it like we did it with Iran. So far, Venezuela is working out great. And even some of his enemies are agreeing that Venezuela is working out great. He made the right move there, including some of his true enemies in America. But and they said, it was the Time magazine, Trump was right about this one thing, and the oil in Venezuela and whatnot. So yeah, you can disagree with him, and he'll probably remember that you had the contrary opinion, and maybe that you were either right or more right, or maybe we should have done neither, done some sort of modified thing or whatever. But that's different than doing him an injury. You don't want to be the guy who does him an injury. And let's see here. Despite media claims Trump and Putin are not compatible at all, I'd say he might respect him due to his gain of power and reign, as Trump likes strong power. But friends or allies, I can't see it. Yeah, I think here's my evaluation on that. When Trump is trying to get something he wants from somebody, whether it's Xi, Putin, whoever the current, Andy, Andy Burnham, or before the guy who was a nothing of a guy that I forget, Prime Minister of England, trying to get something, he's going to try to find something he can say that's favorable. He isn't going to say Putin is a great humanitarian. Oh, Keir Starmer, that's who I was looking for England. He isn't going to say Putin is a great humanitarian or a really nice guy. He's going to do it. But what Trump does like is successes. He likes people that are successful. Don't have to be successful at everything. Just have to be a success at something. He likes people who are successful. It was Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's now one of Trump's biggest enemies. She thought that since she was a Trump supporter, Trump would support her. No, that isn't how Trump works. She was a congresswoman. She very likely, with Trump's support, would have continued to win her seat. She wanted to be, senator or governor? I think it was senator. There was like an open seat for senator or governor or whatever, but I think it was senator. She wanted that, and she wanted Trump's support because she was a loyal Trump supporter. And now she's going back and saying, well, Trump said no new wars, and he's given us a new war. Trump also said, we're dealing with Iran, people, and he even said, not to those words, but that exact quote, but the words to that effect, during his 2024 campaign promises and rallies. He was saying we're going to deal with Iran. Iran isn't a new war. Iran is a continuation war, a continuation problem. It's not like, oh, we're going to go to war for Tibet or something, or go to war over Rwanda or somewhere in Africa or whatever, or Sudan or whatever. We're not going into new wars. Iran is a pre-existing condition. But I think it was more about that Trump wouldn't support her, that she got really hurt. But you have to look at everybody that he's endorsed. He's only going to endorse somebody on two reasons, or two things. One, if he thinks they have a decent chance to win. Okay? So you could be the greatest Trump supporter out there. You think Trump is perfect and wonderful, and you're going to always vote in the House or the Senate or whatever the way Trump tells you to vote. But if it doesn't look like you're going to win the election, and there's another guy, your opponent in the primary, is going to vote with Trump 75% of the time, he's going to endorse the other person because Trump wants to be a winner, so he wants to get people that are going to win. The only other time is he's going to maybe endorse a loser because he doesn't want to endorse a loser. Now, he knows people lose a battle but win the war. And he knows that. So you may lose an election here or lose an election there, but if you're a winner type person, yeah, you're still around. So you're not just a loser, but you've lost a particular battle. Is when it's like the Republican versus some crazy ass Democrat or something. Not, the Democrat looks sort of like he's a Fetterman type personality, and it looks like that personality is going to win. He probably won't endorse the Democrat, but he may not endorse you because he doesn't want to have on the scoreboard of how many Trump-supported people win a loss there. But if you're like a crazy-ass Democrat, like some of these, communists that are from the DSA that are winning some of these offices, either governor or senator or whatever, yeah, you very well may get, even though it's, D plus 25 in this district or something, meaning, it's overwhelmingly Democrat, where 0 is that, plus is percentage likely on that. So D plus 25, yeah, the Democrat's going to win. Well, he'll endorse the other person just because there's a crazy person that he knows he can't work with. And so he might as well support the person. He might endorse you then. But he's not just going to endorse you out of loyalty. Now, it doesn't mean he's going to cut you. If you're loyal to him, he's not going to cut your throat. And it has been seen. You can look at somebody like Mike Huckabee, who I believe is still currently, I know he was, the ambassador to Israel. Something that Mike Huckabee would very much want. If you're a loyal Trump person, and you're somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene, and you lose your seat, he'll probably find something else for you. Make her the ambassador to Belgium or something, or Timbuktu or wherever. Maybe not, a critical spot, but you'll get a reward if you continue to be loyal. You might not get what you want, but you'll get something. And that's just, you gotta, and I'm not saying this is right or good or positive. Oh, hey, just looked up there. Hey, hello, Daily. Keir Stummer. Okay, yeah, I've been looking down while I've been ranting here. So, yeah, you have to understand delay. I don't know. Is that how you say that? Yes, hello. But there he is. Okay. And I see also Mike here, Keir Stummer, giving me that information that I wanted. Yes. Very nice guy. Yes. Nice. There. And new run. Yes. Hello, not a normal person. We are starting with the most latest up-to-date DLCs, and we're just starting it through. We're going to do the Mediterranean first, secure the Mediterranean before going into Russia. So late 40, early 41, get the Mediterranean. If we get the Mediterranean early enough, then a 1941 invasion of the Soviet Union. If not, a 1942 is on the plan, invasion of the Soviet Union for this playthrough. What happened to the previous one? Well, you can look at the end of the last live stream. You don't need to watch the whole thing. I talk about it in some detail, how America somehow decided to declare war against Germany, and I had done nothing to America. I was not allied to Japan, not allied to anything like that. So why are you declaring war with me? So it got through all my test criteria. And I wanted to play with the new HQs and other things at the update. Okay, I've only been in America for a short while, but while I have a strong anti-Trump propaganda fatigue already, I'm not MAGA type at all. TDS is like a genuine real thing. Oh God, yes. People, if Trump says it'd be better if it was a warm day, people would be supporting no, it should be cold. When Trump is anti-algae in the reflecting pool at the Washington Monument, people are like pro-algae. It's crazy. And I am perfectly happy with anybody being rational about Trump. I am generally his supporter. That doesn't mean I agree with all of his moves, but I'm generally thinking overall he's doing the right thing within the conditions that exist. Capitulated as Germans immediately to be democratic and keep the focus tree for the war goals. Okay, it conquered most of Europe and formed the EU. Interesting. Gaining a bunch of cores. Well, very cool. They do that sometimes, yeah. So, yeah. Okay, guys. Well, I want to thank everybody for being here today, listening to my rant. We did get all the way till July. So from January 1 to July 1, we have made it. I'm going to make a second save here. We will be continuing this, I think, next Saturday. That's when we're going to be doing. So if you're new around here, follow or subscribe, and we'll be here. Are you sure? No, I don't want to over it. We'll put in a small letter A just to make sure we have a second save. So if you want to come back and hear me pontificate and actually play like we did today some more, come back next Saturday. Tomorrow, a few of us will be playing War Thunder, driving World War II tanks mostly. A few people jump in air and a few other stuff. So, yes, and I want to thank you. I will have a good day, Elizabeth, and thank you, Not a Normal Person. Delay, thanks for showing up. And yes, thank you, Elizabeth and Folk, for all the good chats. It really keeps things going. Thank you, talking about my live. Let's see, hi. Again, thanks for being here. He's going to thank all the people that participate. Yes, Folk again. One back up to Jamnuska, who was at least here early on. Supreme 50, you may have left or just been having this in the background. Either way is cool. Thank you all for hanging out with me today. I know there are a few others because I just see the view stats, not many, but a few others. Thank you for hanging out. Like I say, we'll be back tomorrow and then again next Saturday.